Hey, Brian.
Yeah, I'm lining them up.
That's right. I understand that. Yeah, we do. We got some things. And running. Oh yeah, I'm talking to myself. These are not my regular glasses. I broke the arm off of it, so I thought I better. Oh well, thank you. Well,
That is fan. I wasn't.
somewhere I think maybe
All right,
down in
thank you.
Milton there, I always stop and look at yard sales or anything. You know, I love it. It is.
But no,
They really do.
one right beside the.
All right, we have enough. I know. Is
that
this
down
okay? Okay, I'll.
He is here.
Hey, we got. I didn't speak. Looked up. How's it going? Sir, how you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Chris Powell, how are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Powell, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Okay.
We had a park back there though.
Here.
Really cool.
I talk at it.
I love the. Yes. Love it. Especially with this. Good on you. Guys.
Oh, I got top one. Yeah.
About to got me down.
Who did your hair?
Color. I took it to Steve.
And this goes with this.
Okay.
And this go with this.
Every day.
Yeah, I've gone there. I'm
Like-
having hair done.
Other blank.
I'll do a good job.
I need it.
Fully done.
Sorry. Madam Mayor.
Tell the truth.
I really do.
Yes. Off of. Okay. Careful. We don't give me. Stuff.
Hey,
That
Once
goes.
it's sent
Like
out,
this
then
Dangerous.
Speaker
Certain
request.
people.
she'll let you know if anything.
Except
Oh,
for.
no, I didn't
One
get
by
any envelope.
itself.
You open an envelope.
Are we gonna?
This is one attachment. Other one.
It's not,
I
How are you, sir?
it's not be on their list. It's okay with me. What is people?
Little boy,
Can you hear me?
Don't have to. So you. What are we gonna?
She-
Well, are they part of the agenda?
No.
They're not on the agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
The way they're.
Cousin, I wondered about.
How's the baby?
I do. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Mama.
Right. Oh, okay. I wonder how that works.
probably are. I didn't check my box. I just thought it was part of the package. Right with it.
Go ahead.
Oh, next.
Still man.
Well, mine too, it's not, well, it,
Still man.
back.
Well, there's truth to that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're going to call this meeting to order. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We have a lot of items on the agenda, but the first item on the agenda is our invited speaker, Representative J.R. Williamson. Please come to the podium and hello, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Appreciate you having me here this afternoon and getting me first on deck. That's always nice. And I'm gonna, after I speak, I am gonna go run out of the meeting. I hate to do that. I always like to stay after I talk, but I'm in town for I think 2 weeks out of the next 5 months, and my little girl has her first ballerina class today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to get back home or over to the class before she's done with it so I can see her, because I think the class is going to be done in the next 5 months. So this will be the only chance I get to see her in her little tutu.
You need to be there. I'm glad you're here.
But I did want to come see you whenever I was at home. You know, the city of Milton means a lot to me. My great-grandfather, John Rogers, had a fish market on the Blackwater River, basically where the memorial is right now. My mom was born in that fish market. He lived right here on Stewart Street. That was the happening place to be during Scratch Ankle when I was growing up. And my grandfather, W.L. Butler, was a city councilman here from 1952 to 1968 before he was a county commissioner from 1972 to 1980. My father, Jim Williamson, was a city councilman for a few years before he was a county commissioner. So my family has a lot of history here in the city of Milton. I actually was raised on Park Avenue before I went to Milton High School. We moved out in the country on Willard Norris Road, which is not so much the country anymore, but the city of Milton means a lot to me, so it's always good to come back home. Whenever I drive home from Tallahassee every single week, I always get off at the East Milton exit, and I come through East Milton, and when I drive over the Blackwater River, I finally feel like I'm home, even though I do move on over to Pace, because I married a Pace girl and now lived in Pace the last 15 years, but don't hold it against me. I still love Milton, and it's always good to be in front of this council. I haven't been here, I guess, about a year in front of you, and I know we have a few new faces, so I want to say congratulations to the new council members for winning election. Thank you for serving in local government. I spent a couple years as a county commissioner. I know what it's like to serve in local government, and you are the front lines of government. And it's a blessing sometimes. Sometimes it's a curse, especially when it's raining outside, because you're gonna have those phone calls. I know as a county commissioner, the worst thing was whenever we had about a 10-day forecast of rain, because everybody's worried about the flooding of their yard or when there's a pothole in a road. So you're that front line of government. I appreciate what you do. And I look forward to serving you in Tallahassee and trying to do the best that I can to make your job easier. So thank you for your service, and good luck over the next few years as you serve as a member of the council. Madam Mayor, congratulations to you. My mother and your father, I believe they graduated together. I know they went to high school together, but I think they graduated together in 1963. So it's pretty neat to get to work with you on issues that are important to the city of Milton. I look forward to getting to know you better and serving the city of Milton with you over the next 4 years.
Thank you.
You have a lot of issues that are important to you, and what I've told you in the past, and the way that I believe today is, I don't know what I don't know, So if you have issues that are important to you, certainly reach out to me, whether it's by text or by cell phone or however, email, however you want to get a hold of me. Let me know the issues that are important to you in the city of Milton, because if you don't tell me, then I can't do the things to work for you and try to do things at Tallahassee to make them better. So certainly reach out to me. You were never bothering me. If I don't know the things that are important to you, then I can't try to go over to Tallahassee and try to help you and try to fix them. So reach out. Communication is a two-way street. If I don't reach out to you and talk to you and discuss to you and let you know things that are important to me over here, or things that maybe you can help me in over here, then I'm not doing my job. But I represent you is the way that I look at it. So please let me know what I can do in Tallahassee to better represent the city of Milton and better represent you. Since the last time I came before you, committee assignments have come out and they've totally changed. I don't sit on any of the committees that I sat on 2 years ago. Right now, I am chairman of Government Operations and Technology Appropriations, which is a pretty neat. Whenever I got into the Florida House, the first thing that I wanted to do was make sure that I served on appropriations, because that is where the purse strings are. And that was a goal of mine, to get into the budget world. The Speaker of the House, Jose Oliva, put me into the appropriations world, and he's allowed me to chair an appropriations subcommittee. So I'm very happy about that, but it's a committee that I've never served on. It serves the budgets for 12 agencies across the state. Things like DMS, things like the lottery, pretty much anything that's essential to state government, we cover those agencies. It's going to be totally new to me, and we've really had to dive in and learn the budget. I don't even know all of the areas of the budget that we're covering, but I'm going to have to learn them quick. But it's even though the budget is much smaller than some of the other budget subcommittees, and when I say smaller, it's still $4 billion. But with it having such a wide range of agencies, it's very important to the everyday lives of citizens across the state and to business people across the state, because it covers budgets like DVPR's budget. So any of the licensing for business people across the state. So I'll be learning that budget. And one good thing about serving as a chairman on the Appropriations Committee is, A, you get to spend a lot of time with the other appropriations chairmen for things like ag and natural resources, or TED Approps, so you get to see them every day. So whenever we're asking for money in other silos, I get to see them every day, and hopefully they'll remember me whenever they're divvying out that money. But it also gives you a chance to serve on the big appropriations committee in the House. So I do sit on the full House Appropriations Committee. They also appointed me to the LBC, which is the Legislative Budget Committee. And what that does is it has 7 members in the House, 7 members in the Senate, and when we're not meeting in session and there are any changes in the budget, they'll call us over to Tallahassee and we'll have to approve or deny those changes. So whenever there's changes in the state budget that are not happening during that 60-day session, I'll be able to be in Tallahassee and keep my eyes on it. So I did not know that I would have a chance to sit on that this early in my legislative career, so I'm really excited about having 3 of my 6 committees being all budget related, which was a big goal of mine when I first got elected. The policy committees that I sit on are Energy and Utilities Subcommittee. The Commerce Committee is my big committee. That's where a lot of the good food fights are in Tallahassee, so that's a really interesting committee to sit on. And then my last committee that I'm vice chairman of is Workforce Development and Tourism. So a lot of good committee assignments. All of them are new, so it's going to be a very busy year, learning a lot of new things, but I think it's going to give me the opportunity to hopefully serve you better, hopefully better, and I look forward to working as hard as I can for you over the next 2 years. And now I will open it up. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I'd just like to say, I know you'll probably have some questions, but I just wanted to express my appreciation for your advocacy for Milton. We are so well represented to have you in Tallahassee. We thank you. I believe everyone here agrees with me. I know I have always been impressed by you and your service. Your approach to your work has to have an ethic of service, and that's just hard to come by, I think. When we look at national politics, we don't always feel that we see that, but it's as they're portrayed on television. But we know you, and you're wonderful. So thank you for everything you do. And as far as our particular needs, I know the council will want to share their thoughts too, but you and I have already discussed, and I appreciate your depth of knowledge and your interest in our getting the funding for the wastewater treatment facility expansion to East Milton. I appreciate that we've had a chance to talk about that already. And when I recently talked with you and Representative Andrade and Senator Broxson, I felt that y'all received well what we were presenting. And I look forward to opportunities to discuss with you and others in the future more ways that I can help Milton get the attention it needs from Tallahassee so we can continue to build that funding. So thank you for your help with that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very blessed that I get to represent the district and the community that I was born and raised. And the way that I look at it is this community has been very good to me and my family, whether it was personally or through our businesses. And the best thing that I can do to give back is to go over and give 100%. So as long as I'm there, that's what I'm going to continue to do. And so I appreciate those kind words. The wastewater treatment plant is something that, to me, and I've said it for a few years now, it's the most important, I think, issue for the next 30 to 50 years in Santa Rosa County, not just the city of Milton, but the whole county. And I think you could probably take that and you could expand that and say it could be one of the more important issues for the region when you take Santa Rosa, Escambia, and even Okaloosa County, because the economic development center for those three counties could be right here in Santa Rosa County, and it could all start with that project. Over the last few months, when I was home, we've had several meetings. I've met with you, I've met with city staff, and then I've also had people from Tallahassee come over and tried to make sure that they understand just how important that issue is, not just for the city of Milton, but for the county and for the region, because the approach that I wanted to take is it's a large number project. I mean, it is a very expensive project, so there's no silver bullet when it comes to paying for that project. So we're going to have to look in every pot of money that we can find, and believe me, we're going to try to put our hands into every pot that we can. So we wanted to make sure we brought people over here that could help us try to find different pots of money, and met with people from DEO, talked with people from Triumph, and just let them know the importance of that project. And we'll continue to have those talks and continue to try to let people know the importance of that project. And you also brought up another very valid point. One of the most important things that you can have in Tallahassee is good teammates, because I can do only so much as one person. And the Panhandle delegation has been very strong in the last 2 years, and I've been happy to be a part of that. And I think the Panhandle delegation and the Northwest Florida delegation is going to do very well in the next 2 years. And I know that y'all have gotten to know one of my teammates pretty well, and I'm very lucky to have Representative Andrade going over to Tallahassee with me, because he's, first of all, he's a really good friend. We haven't known each other long, but he's a really good guy, and he's turning out to be a good friend, and it's great for me to have somebody over there that I can trust, and I trust him 100%, and I look forward to working with him. And he's going to be a great advocate for not only the city of Milton, but Santa Rosa County, because he's one of my delegation members for Santa Rosa County, but for all of Northwest Florida. And he's going to do an awesome job, and already is. He's hit the ground running, so he's doing a great job.
Members of council, do y'all have comments or questions for Representative Williamson?
Mayor, I'd just like to say, reiterate what you said. You said you were right on point about Mr. Williamson. I think you might be early in your days over there, but they they realize your value, and that's why they placed you in this position. And I feel as Heather does. I think Santa Rosa County in general, because the products that are the projects that are important to us really affect everyone in the whole region, and with that wastewater treatment plant and a couple other issues. So I have a lot of hope, a lot of excitement that you're there, other team members are there, I think we couldn't really be in a better position than the way we are right now. And I appreciate all you do and Alex does over there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Snow, and I want to say thank you. You've been always one that keeps me in touch with what's going on over here. And a lot of times when you go to Tallahassee, especially like right now, it's just getting started. You know, like I said, I'll be gone for the next 5 months. I'm going to be home. This is 1 week, and I think another week I'll be home. You get in a bubble, and you don't always. I try not to, but you can't help but get in a bubble when you're away from home for 5 months, and it's bad because I mean sometimes I come home and somebody says, you know, you mentioned something about somebody, and my wife says they passed away 2 months ago, and it's like, wait, I did, you know, you because you're not home for 5 months, you don't realize some of the things that you miss when you're at home. So you don't realize the things that are happening all the time when you're away. And I can't read every single page of the paper, every single thing that's happening, but you're a good person. You always reach out to me when things are important to the city of Milton, when things are important to Santa Rosa County, and you let me know what's going on to the community, and that keeps me in touch with reality of what's going on in my hometown. So thank you for that, because it makes me a better representative when I do come back home, that I can represent the people. So please continue to do that. The new members, I'll make sure you have my cell phone, and don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I really mean it. I don't know what I don't know, and if you're not in contact with me and communication with me, then I don't know how to better represent you. So please keep me in touch with the reality of home, because believe me, this place is much more important. What's going on in this district and in this town is much more important than what's going on in Tallahassee to me.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Holly?
Right. I just wanted to say thank you, Chair, for coming today and sharing the information that you've shared with us. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. You've always been a great friend of mine and a great friend of my family's, and you're one of those two that you always will bring me back to reality too if I need to be brought back to reality. So I appreciate that.
I'll call your grandmother and your mama.
Because you'll call my mom or my grandmother, and I don't want that to happen. So.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Councilwoman Hathaway,
I
yes.
just want to tell you thank you for coming and reassuring us that, you know, we're important and that you're going to get things done. Thank you for that.
I'm going to try. I didn't say I was going to get them done. I said I was going to try.
You're going to try. You're going to try your hardest, but
Don't
thank
put
you.
that pressure on me. Well, I'll come back in June, and we can have another discussion.
Sounds
How about
perfect. Thank you.
Are there other council members who would like?
Yes, I
Councilwoman
too would
Johnson.
like to thank you for all your support always, and helping us out and helping us to understand some of the issues. And I think it's very important that you were talking on the waste water treatment plant and looking at it from a regional point of view too. Milton, Santa Rosa County is a great place to be. And we do have, we will be finding some information out in February in terms of the traffic flow. And that also will have regional implications. And I'm quite sure as we move down that path and maybe make some calls to you, you can help guide us. And I thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, we hold different positions. The city council certainly will look through things through a certain scope. The Santa Rosa Board of County Commissioners will look through things through a certain scope. Me as a state representative, I will look through things through a certain scope. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, we still represent the same citizens, and we'll always have to work together. We may not agree 100% of the time or 100% on a subject, but most importantly, we always have to remember that we do represent the same people, and we'll work together to make sure we do a good job representing those people, and I can commit that to you.
Councilwoman Jordan?
I'd like to say thank you, Representative Williams. I haven't had the opportunity to work with you in past years as most of the council has, but I look forward to building a relationship and working.
Yes, sir. Call me anytime.
Yes, ma'am, Council.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy, your consideration.
Mayor, if I could, I would like to thank the representative for his 4 decades of knowledge of the city of Milton. I say 4 decades because I believe there's a date in the not-too-distant future when the TV show 40-something may mean something to him.
Your birthday must be approaching.
I'm holding out until Saturday.
Till Saturday.
10:34 in,
So,
in the evening before I'm actually 40.
Yeah. So a little
I'm still young and in my 30s right now.
a little prematurely, but it is good to have the senior House member from Santa Rosa County present.
Right.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all having me. If I can do anything for you, certainly reach out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have any other invited speakers, but persons to appear is our next item on the agenda. I have a few slips of paper that have been handed to me, speaker request forms. One of them is on a item that's on the agenda, but the others are not. I guess in no particular order. I'm not sure I was told that there was an order to these as far as when they were submitted, but Ryan Van has submitted a speaker request form to talk about disc golf. Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address, and welcome to the City of Milton.
Thank you very much. Ryan Van, 3933 Tuscany Way. I appreciate y'all's time today. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak. I wanted to come and update everyone on the status of the disc golf project that I had been at previous meetings and we had spoken about. I've been coordinating with Parks and Rec Director to develop a plan to help us stay in communication and to keep our status up to date. I believe that the last meeting we had continued it in the committee to look at some of the options for the area. I know there was some changes on where the course would be allocated to, and we were looking at that land to see what options we had. When we originally brought the idea to the council, we looked at it from a tourism events and things like that. So we want a high-level course. We would love to have a quality course put in up there that would generate people to our area. I wanted to share with you all something I've been working on over the past month or two, which is the Emerald Coast Disc Golf Club is running their annual fundraiser event this Saturday, and I actually am the coordinator for that fundraiser event. We're expecting 150 people to come out to the Pensacola State College in Milton, and we're going to be giving away over $10,000 in prizes for that event. So those memberships that they purchase help to raise funds for the club and help us to make improvements on courses going forward. We have a high level of interest in the disc golf community. There has been growth each year, and we will continue to have that. We currently have 3 to 4 events a year in Milton at that course, and I run some personally as well. And we hope that that can extend to a new course in the city as well. And speaking with Mr. John, we've looked at a lot of options on how that could be done in revenue, in tourism, and in large sanction events. And then on top of that, I've been working with Pensacola Sports Organization to get tourism grant money for these two counties. So they can apply to Santa Rosa County and Escambia County. I've got some meetings next week about some events this year that we're hoping to get them involved in and generating a large following, people coming in from out of town, and hopefully generating some tourism dollars. We've developed the plan. John has asked me to provide him with an update next month on where we're at. One of my recommendations was that it may be worthwhile to look at a professional designer for the course. The packages on materials many times will come with a discounted professional to actually look at some design options for the course. That is something the community and myself originally stated we could do, and we can still do that if the city deems that necessary. I am more than willing to get involved in that as a representative of the disc golf club in the area. And I know that we've also looked at it being very important that the community provide feedback once we start looking at plans and things like that. And we are a big proponent of that, and the club has not yet announced any of these plans, but there are a lot of people aware of it now based on some social media buzz generated. So I wanted to just provide that update and remind everyone we are very interested. The community is very interested. We have tried to avoid having 100 people come into the meeting, but if you guys need some sort of show of support, we'll be happy to generate that in our community. And we look to move forward. And at any time, if anything's needed in the project, I encourage anyone to reach out to me. I'm able to pull resources from our club and also myself, which I travel and play tournaments. I run events, and I've helped in the planning and design of some courses over in the area as well.
That's
all I have.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've heard you speak before, and I think it's exciting, what you're working on. And it sounds as if you're in communication with city staff already and working towards a product or a plan that council would then consider. Do you need any further assistance from staff other than continuing with, I guess, Mr. Norton at this point?
I believe at this point we've got a good plan going.
Okay.
There's going to be some additional information in next meeting. I think he wanted to prepare. At this point, we're working towards a design option, but I primarily wanted to provide an update just to ensure that this was at the forefront for us, and everyone is extremely excited that we've been given this opportunity, and we assure you that this will get a lot of use, and the community will really enjoy an option of disc golf at a community park like this.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Mayor, we've earmarked $20,000 to this venture. The recommendation on item 1126 found within your packet today states staff should continue building interest in this project and work towards its completion. My recommendation has not changed. We'll continue to pursue it.
Thank you for that update.
Thank
We're
you.
keeping it at the forefront.
Great. Appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
May
Appreciate
I
it,
ask a
Ryan.
question, Madam Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
This, Mr. Jorgensen, that's 20,000. Previously, when we've talked about the disc golf, it was like $9,000 plus dollars, so that's doubled.
We wanted to ensure that we had adequate funds based on what may be changes. One of the things he alluded to was, for example, engaging a professional to help with design. There are costs associated with that. This amount allows us that levity if it's determined to be appropriate. So that's what we've identified.
So that'll be moved on for council to vote on.
At some future point.
Okay.
We've got to get there.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. Next sheet, Mr. Bruton, hey, Mr. Bruton, I see you submitted a speaker request form. Would you like to share your announcement?
Excuse me. Al Bruton, 6033 Breckenridge Drive, Milton, Florida. I'm appearing before the committee as a whole because I got a phone call today in reference to the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day block party. To make a long story short, the committee that handles the setting up and filling out the forms and all, we had a transition from one group to another. And the new group sent in a request form way back in September for the parade, but they didn't know that you have to fill out two, one for the parade and one for the block party. So the parade was approved, and I'm appealing to the council that the block party be approved. And what it amounts to is that the intersections from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to West Walker Street, that's where we hold the event there. And we'll pay the $100 for the dumpsters and trash cans and so forth and so on. But like I say, the paperwork, some kind of way it fell through the cracks, but moving forward, we will be decent in order. So we're, like I say, we're appealing. Hopefully somebody will.
Mayor,
Yes,
if I
sir.
could, I'll
Mr. Jorgensen.
try to cut to the chase. They want to close the road, and
Right.
road closure requires council action. I asked Mr. Bruton to come represent that interest, make the request to council, so that that can be accomplished on Monday.
Can we just amend the original
You can authorize staff to close the road. We'll take that action.
motion?
Motion.
There were many motions and seconds heard. Let the record reflect, motion by Councilman Snow and a second by Councilwoman Hathaway. That's who I heard the most. Can I have a vote?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really taking official action if it's not a city council meeting, but it's official enough for this purpose, right?
It's enough for this purpose.
Yes. And of course, it will be unanimous. Waiting for, oh, I have to vote too, okay.
Hit confirm.
Thank you. I haven't voted before. All right.
Hey, you won
So-
this one. Thank you, Mr. Bruton.
Thanks, Mr. Bruton, for calling that to our attention, and
Well, it was called to my attention, so.
thank you.
All else fails, call Al.
Yes, yes, sir. And I have a couple of other speaker request forms, one from Ms. Donatelli and Mr. McCarthy. Are they here? Welcome to the City of Milton. Please state your name and address.
My name is Angela Donatelli, and my address is 5881 Little Leaf Court, Milton, 32570.
And my name is Brett McCarthy. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. We are here. We live in the Magnolia Bend subdivision, which is a newer D.R. Horton development. We were in phase 1 of this development, and they have since, in the past year, put up phase 2 behind us and in the cul-de-sacs to the side of us. The new houses that they built behind us have been built at a much higher elevation, which is causing, anytime we have rain of any sort, it comes down into our backyard instead of up the sides of the house like it was supposed to.
Are these your photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Those, if you'll see like a 4 or 5 foot span where it has actually rotted out the bottom of our fence. And then there's a close-up of that because the black and white photo makes it a little hard to see. But there's a close-up also showing how the rot has affected the fence because of this rain. I don't have any photographs as of now of when the rain actually is standing, and I plan on taking those the next time it rains. But I believe our neighbor actually has some of the accumulation of the water that happens.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. And so we had some issues with D.R. Horton when we first moved into our home, black mold and things of that nature. And it took a really long, hard fight for us to get anywhere with them on that. So we're coming here in hopes that maybe we can have some assistance in having this fixed in a timely manner, so that in the event we go to sell our home or do anything, we are able to do that without so much struggle because of the issues that we're incurring because of the new homes that were built.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Mr. Jorgensen, have you been discussing this with homeowners?
I've met with these homeowners today. They have previously had a discussion with the Public Works Director. I've looked at the material they provided to council. This is really a dispute between the property owner and the developer. In light of the fact that their issues deal with area drainage, and the area drainage is the result of a design that isn't functioning the way that it should. And further, there are other issues in regard to completion of the subdivision and the requirements of the plat. I've indicated to them that we will help. And that's exactly what I intend to do. And I will take the time to go out and visit the property myself. I will then begin meetings with representatives of D.R. Horton, and we'll work through a process of addressing their needs and the area's needs. We'll serve as an intermediary.
That's what I was hoping you would tell me. I figured you already had that plan.
That's what we'll do.
All right. Is that satisfactory for now? We'll dig into this. And
Yes, ma'am.
once we have more input from Mr. Jorgensen, I don't know that there is any action council can take officially as far as a vote or a particular action that they could take. But the communication with the city manager and if necessary and as appropriate, the city attorney, hopefully will promote some process and communication that will help you get some solutions from the developer.
Yes, ma'am.
So we appreciate you raising that concern.
Well, we appreciate you guys having us here today.
Absolutely.
We just need the extra assistance. Like, it's very hard to fight these people on your own. So I'm hoping that a little push from a little bit of backing from somebody will help us in the right direction.
Absolutely. No, it's hard to solve a problem if the communication's breaking down. So if we can help you with that, and it sounds like we can, Mr. Jorgensen's going to work on that. So we look forward to hearing good news that has been fruitful.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for your time.
Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Jordan.
Thank you. Didn't I meet you back there in the summer? Don't you build furniture?
Yes, sir, you did.
Yeah, I looked at this wood and I thought that you were a wood man yourself, and you is this wood beyond repair, or can't you take a pressure washer and knock that? I know you know about woods.
And the issue is, we don't have any paperwork here showing it either, but we had 2 dogs that had gotten out. They got out due to the fact of the fence being rotted out.
The wood is
Well,
not,
I was just asking. I'm not, I was just saying.
the wood is not molded, it's actually chipped away. That's what, it's very hard to see in the picture. You can't just clean it off,
Well,
it's actually
I
chipped.
knew he was a wood man, and he would know the answer to that.
Right.
I see a lot of fences that have black mold on them that aren't really rotten. Pressure washer will take the mold off, and I just asked if that was.
Well, to give you a rough idea, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with it, but just a quick crash course. Wood essentially wicks moisture. So any moisture that it comes in contact with, it's going to travel through. In those pictures, again, because it is in black and white, it's hard to truly see. But there's the veining all throughout, so it shows that extended period of that, prolonged moisture exposure.
Mr. Snow has seen these in person, has seen the fence in person, so maybe he would be able to give a little bit better of an idea.
I'm not particularly worried about the fence. I just wanted to ask the question.
I guess to answer your question, it's repairable by replacing.
Yes.
We were just holding off because we needed to actually have proof that there was a problem present.
Plus, you probably wouldn't want to repair it and still continue to have the draining issues.
Absolutely.
You're doing back at square one.
So, we're kind of buying our time at this point to.
Well, it's good to see you again, and I hope your business is
Thank
doing
you,
well.
and congratulations by the well.
Thank you.
By the way, thank you.
Mayor?
Will help.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Councilman
Thank
Snow,
everybody.
Councilman Snow was asked
I
to
appreciate
recognize.
y'all. I went out and met with y'all yesterday. I seen where the water looks like it's holding up, and I did mention to come talk with Randy. He's full of solutions, or you will find them, and I'm glad it worked out just like I thought it would. Like I said before, we're here to assist, even if it's not our issue, at least help with answers and point people in the right direction so we can make things easier and so you can move on to but that fence is totally rotted out, basically. It's not mold, it's gone. So just a few pieces, like you said, will fix it, but if we have continued water there, it's going to be the same issue over and over and over again. So thanks, Randy, for doing that. I'm sure you can follow up with me or anyone else here on this, and we'll see how this goes. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
you,
everyone.
And once again, we thank you for coming and bringing this to our attention. And I'm sure when our great manager coming out and having some conversation and collecting more data, we surely would probably do something to further the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Next person is Ms. Franklin. And I would just look through your photographs, and I've passed them down to the council members. And the photographs do reflect standing water next to a fence, among other things.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you've come here to speak about in connection to what your neighbors shared?
Well, I'd like to elaborate, but thank you for having Jaslyn Franklin, Myron
Thank you.
Franklin, 5872 Old Plantation Court.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I want to speak on 3 points. We talk about economics and economic development, talk about community, and we talk about service. When we look at our community and we talk about economic growth, we're the ones that are bringing these builders in to build these communities. It is our responsibility to hold them accountable that these communities are safe and that they're steady for the years to come. As you continue to build Milton, these are essential for you all to recruit people to come and want to live in these communities. Well, I can tell you that D.R. Horton does not take pride in what they do. They are not accountable, and they do not want to come back to make sure our communities are safe. As you look through the pictures, you can see that they are drinking on the job. There's times where the whole sidewalk with big boulders were out. They did not come back until I text them 2 or 3 months later to get them. Our community is full with children. We have 3, our neighbors have 4, the whole street. There's no house over there with less than 4 bedrooms, so there's a lot of children. It was of no concern for them to come back and pick up these boulders out the street. We talk about the debris in the road, the bricks, the nails. We called them, they told us it was not our issue. We had 2 flat tires. You can see from the photos the proof of that. You can see their contracted vendors spraying the debris back into our yard in the photos. I started taking photos because we as the community were voicing our concerns, but they were not hearing them. Their main phrase was, the city approved it. They continue to tell us the city approved these requirements, and my husband can vouch for that as well, and I have these in text messages. I'm no engineer, but I have worked in capital assets management for a very long time and have a degree, a master's degree. And I'm aware that elevation is determined by the presentation of the plans they submit to the city. And the city has to account for approving those elevations, which will then affect us. Our homes were built first. Therefore, the elevation should have been accounted for in the sod that was already placed in the community. Obviously, it was not. And when you talk to D.R. Horton, they say the city approved it. So when we come here today, we come here not just about water standing in our yard. We come because D.R. Horton said it's your responsibility. And as those that serve us, which was a point that was brought up earlier, I want to know what you all are going to do to hold D.R. Horton accountable for the economic growth. Because if someone asked me, would I buy here again, I would say no. No one's helping us.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. This is a new issue for me, so I did not know that D.R. Horton was telling you in response to your concerns, simply the city approved it.
Yes. We've called the city when they first put the dirt out there because we knew the dirt was too high. They took down some of the dirt. They came back. The young lady, I forget what her name is, but she came out because they did not put up a barrier. That's a requirement of any building for the sake of toxic and any other hazardous material. We had to call them. As you can see in the picture, all the dirt that was plowed against our fence, we had to call the police one day because the gentleman took his tractor and politely went down the side of our fence and pushed it such that we were in our living room and we heard it and we came out. And he told us, call D.R. Horton. You can see in the photos him on the tractor. So when we come before you, it's not just for help. It's for you all to hold D.R. Horton accountable.
Well, once we can study the issue so that we can understand what we can do, I'm sure I commit to you, we will do what we can do. Mr. Jorgensen, do you have comments in response
I
to
do. This is the first time that this has been called to my attention, but I will say that we have not accepted the subdivision. These are issues that hopefully develop the first year following approval and construction permits. When these issues surface and they're the responsibility of the developer before we accept the subdivision and complete the plat process, will require the developer to address the deficiencies. That's where we're at. So what their insights allow us to, at this point, as it relates to the second phase of the development of this property, hold their feet to the fire. I am aware of some other issues we have. We have some issues with some sidewalks, amongst some other items that would result in us not approving the plat until they're addressed. We'll add them to the list.
Yeah, I'm aware of that one issue you just mentioned about the sidewalks. Thanks for bringing this to our attention because we don't know unless you communicate with us. So we really appreciate it. And we're going to dig into it and make sure that we're doing our jobs for you.
Is it a point of contact or a time frame we should check back to see how progress is moving along?
Let me ask Mr. Jorgensen.
Would a member of staff just get a card or two from my desk and provide it to them? You can call me directly.
Okay.
Randy?
Yes.
Having the discussion here, and we've had we're pretty blessed that we don't have too many storm water issues, but we do have a few in a couple places where you're at and a couple other places. Yes, sir.
It is more people, but just kind of timing of meetings is kind of hard for people to get off work and make it here, but I felt that it was important for me and my family and the rest of the people in the community for me to take off work and have to go back to come here and voice my concern to you all about our community, not just my house, my neighbor house, but the whole community.
Thank you for doing that. And you don't have to y'all don't have to all come en masse to tell us what's going on. We want to know what's going on, and the way it helps us best to be prepared is if we understand after staff has had a chance to dig into it and fully inform us, because they're the subject matter experts on your development and what can be done. So we do want to help you make sure that's done right. Councilman Snow, did you have another comment about this?
Yeah, I was just thank you for coming. We've actually extended these hours to 3. Our other 2 meetings are at 5:30, which are better to meet at times too. So if you want to speak at executive or the city council meeting, those are at 5:30. And I don't know, maybe we should move this one to 5:30, something we can talk about one day, so people don't have to take off of work as much. you know, I love having new homes built here, new subdivisions and growth, but and me being a new home purchaser also, I know how some of these home builders can be, and it can be frustrating. I had numerous run off into my yard last year, and they overly don't care about it, and so not sure the answers. More educated people in this room than I am about it, but we need to hold them responsible. We appreciate it. We want them to deliver a great product, and we want you happy. We want you here. And so we'll, as the mayor I think said a minute ago, we'll figure it out, and we'll do the best we can.
Of course. Thank you for being here. And I hope that by the end of this process, you'll say, I'm glad I did buy in Milton. Glad you're here. I do too. We have a big agenda today, so I don't have any other speaker request forms, and I'm going to move us on to new business item 1156. Bad debt for December 2018 and 2019.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this, I know we kind of skipped over the council items. Is this the time to kind of bring up?
Yes, I am sorry.
It's okay.
You know, I am anxious because we're so far behind schedule, and I did look earlier at council items and think folks might want to have a comment now. So please, Councilwoman Hathaway, if you have a council item, please share.
I actually have quite a few.
All righty. Well, we'll see. We'll do our best to
Okay,
follow
so
along.
one thing that I kind of want to add to the agenda is actually moving the committee of the whole meeting time. To kind of have a discussion about it. Also, it's been brought to my attention when we have like parades and stuff, the traffic that's coming off of Munson Highway coming back into Milton. Apparently there's no detour signs on where they need to go or road closure signs, so that's kind of something else that I wanted to discuss. Also want to discuss barricades at the parades. And then I think that's about it. So those are just the 3 items that I would like to add to the agenda today.
Just 3. When you said quite a few, I thought we were in for a long list.
Oh, we were
Okay.
in for a lot
What's
longer
that
list.
last item?
So,
Barricades.
Okay.
Mayor,
yes, sir, Councilman Jordan.
I do have a couple of things I would like to. we're gonna have
Are there
growth.
some items you want to add to the agenda, sir?
I suppose so, yes.
Please just
growth.
identify the topics so that we can try to get organized.
Under growth and development, I would like to, put one of our businesses designed upholstery. I'd like to.
Can you speak into the speaker?
Councilman Jordan is speaking about a business, an upholstery business, and he's going to continue his remarks in the microphone. I remember this individual. Please
Yes.
share.
I would like to speak about design upholstery. I'd like to also bring up to date, if for anyone that doesn't know about Next Site, the meeting with Next Site. And I would like to refer an item to Ms. Rice about a floodwater issue.
About what?
Stormwater issue.
Stormwater issue.
Mr. Jorgensen and Ms. Pam, are y'all getting all this?
I am, Mayor. I would ask that we move through the agenda that we have before us and see what time allows.
We do have some priorities that have to be addressed today, I understand. Are there other council items that y'all would like to at least put on our radar? We can't discuss them today. We will discuss them. Or have I heard from all the council members about council items to add? From Councilwoman Rice, do you have a comment? Okay. All right. So as we get organized, I believe, Mr. Jorgensen, you've organized our agenda by order of priority so we can begin with the bad debt. Is that correct? Or is there something you need to move up?
Well, Madam Mayor, I think we can move through the vast majority of the items here in relative ease. There are 1 or 2 that will require some discussion, I'm sure, but I believe we've got adequate time.
Okay. So item number 1156, bad debt for December 2018 and January 2019. Has everyone seen their materials on this?
I have seen it. I have a question.
Are they 2 different sets?
believe it's bad debt for December 2018 in the amount of $5,517.27.
Councilwoman Rice, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to know about the process for write-offs, and specifically, how many months in arrears is an account allowed to go? Are there payment plans negotiated, and what are the perimeters of a payment?
Mr. Jorgensen, would you, or Ms. DeWitt, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, we do have payment plans. Sometimes they just move out and don't do their payment. We let them go about 3 months. Maybe see if they would come in and pay them. Then we turn them over to the credit bureau for collection. And if we have any gas in that account, we have an account that the money comes out of the gas account, write-off fund.
So we have a very specific policy. You run past 90 days, it's off, that's it.
Yeah.
And then what was the total non-collected write-offs for 2018? After you collected your money back, after paid back, do you know?
I think probably about 60,000.
60,000. Have we done any comparisons with other municipalities to see if that is the norm?
No, we have not.
Can we do that? How
Yeah,
can we
can
get
do
that done?
We can call them and ask.
That would be great. That would be great. Okay, thank you.
Also, Madam Chair, we have January in the amount of $5,917.14. Staff recommends approval.
Make
Thank
a
you.
motion, we approve.
A motion from Councilman Jordan to approve item number 1156, bad debt for December 2018, bad debt for January 2019. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Johnson. There's no further discussion. Please vote. Thank you. Thank you. Abstentions noted for Sharon and Jeff, who have stepped out of the room at the moment. All right, this moves on to the executive committee agenda then, as approved. Moving on to item number 1157, nonprofit sponsorships from Natural Gas of Milton. There are materials in your packet, a compilation of sponsorships given to local nonprofit organizations from Natural Gas of Milton for calendar years 2017 and 2018. This information is just informational item for your consideration. I don't think it requires any discussion.
Yeah, I have a question.
Councilwoman Rice?
So I see the budgeted amount was $25,000 for 2017 and 2018. I'd like to know how this number was chosen.
Well, there might be some history Mr. Jorgensen can share with us on that.
It was just to ensure that there was adequate revenue available for council's discretion and for Milton Natural Gas to adequately market itself to the area.
And is this the norm for other city-owned gas companies of our size?
I would purport that they probably have a larger marketing budget, but I'd be happy to get you that information.
Can you do a comparison for me?
I can.
Great, thank you.
There's no further discussion on this informational item. We will move on to item number 1160, board vacancies. The staff received 2 board appointment survey forms that meet the criteria to fill 2 of the vacant board positions. Staff recommends council appoint Kevin Boyer to the Milton General Employees Pension Board and Shari Sebastio to the Milton Civil Service Board.
Mayor, I was informed earlier today that Kevin Boyer will have to withdraw his request.
Oh, that's bad. So that will have to wait then, the appointment to the Milton General Employees Pension Board?
It will. Ms. Sebastio could serve.
And
Make a motion.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Holly?
Make a motion that Shari Sebastio be appointed to the Civil Service Board.
Second.
Second from Councilman Snow to Councilwoman Holly's motion to appoint Shari Sebastio. There's no discussion. Please vote. Shari here? Hey, thanks for being here and thanks for volunteering your time. Yes, ma'am.
Shari Sebastio, 6751 Cedar Ridge Circle.
Welcome.
Thank you. I put in for 2 boards. Is there something that states that you can't run on 2 boards, or?
We try to avoid it.
Well, I mean, I put in for 2, And I know that you put me on for the Civil Service Board, but I would prefer, if possible, to be on the Milton Planning Board instead of the Civil Service Board. And I am in Ward 4, which is what is vacant.
We have another individual that has applied for the same position. Background lends itself to the position to a greater degree, and I think we'll bring that name forward for council's consideration to the planning board.
Okay. Thank you.
In the meantime, do you want to serve on the Civil Service Board?
I will, unless I can possibly go to the other board. I would rather be at the other, but I will serve on the Civil Service Board.
Thank you for serving, and when that item comes up for the planning board, I'm sure the council will be given understanding about the different backgrounds, and that'll be discussed.
Thank you.
We'll remember that you want to serve on it. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Next item is the Blackwater Glow Run 2019. The Blackwater Glow Run is an annual charity 5K, I'm sorry, not 5,000, 5K, it's a 5K, hosted by Leadership Santa Rosa and the Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce. All proceeds go directly to the RISE grant. The event is dated April 20th, 2019, and it will be held next to the Downtown Pavilion on South Willing. The race will begin just after sunset at 7:30 p.m. Will take approximately 1 hour to complete. Sidewalks will be used for the race route, which will allow for no major road closures, and volunteers will be positioned at all turn points to alleviate confusion. Cleanup and security will be handled by Leadership Santa Rosa, which will help cut back on city expenses. Cost is $300. The funding source is the Leadership Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce, and sponsors. Staff has met with the event organizer to cover all city standards and recommending approval of this event. May I hear a motion?
Motion.
Discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Discussion from Councilwoman Rice.
I'm glad to vote in favor to help provide the ability to raise funds for a charitable donation. It seems like it's well thought out, but do we know who received the award last year and what the amount was?
Does anyone know the history of that?
Well, if Mr. Norton were here, I would defer to him, but off the top of my head, I do not.
Well, why don't we put a pin in that so we can figure out the answer to that and share that with you at a different time, Ms. Rice?
I'm still going to vote in favor. I just wanted that
information. Okay, I understand that wasn't a condition. I just wanted to make sure you knew we weren't going to forget about it.
Well, if we could probably have
Councilman
that
Powell?
information at the executive meeting. Even
We can. We'll be
Yeah.
happy to bring it
Yeah.
forward at that time. That's generally what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. So we'll have some additional information on the history of that at the next meeting. But for now, I believe I heard a motion from Councilwoman Johnson to approve,
That is
and a
correct.
second from Councilwoman Hathaway.
Yes.
Randy, will you be competing?
I will not.
I'll volunteer.
Can I have some votes?
Oh.
Unanimously approved. Moving on to Main Street Milton request for ex officio member. City has received a request from the Main Street Milton Board of Directors requesting a representative from City Council to serve as an ex officio member of the MSM Board. The goal being to improve communication and strengthen the working relationship between the city and Main Street Milton. As the majority of their work is downtown, Main Street Milton recommended either representative from Ward 1, recommendation to designate a representative from City Council to serve as an ex officio member of the Main Street Milton Board of Directors. I'm glad this came up, and Mr. Jorgensen and I met with Ed Spears last week, and this topic came up during that meeting as well. And, you know, it really concerns me that there is a need to improve communication, because Main Street is an excellent program. It's a national program, it's a state program, and it's a city program. And it has there's so much potential for Milton because of the Main Street program. So I think the best way for it to work well for Milton is to make sure we're unifying all the people in Milton who have something to gain from this being a successful program. And so I was really excited to get to meet with Ed to talk about some of the concerns that people had given to me. And I've recommended them go to Ed to speak directly to him about their concerns and questions, because it was an issue that came up during the campaign. And it's an issue that I hope we can resolve by unifying Milton around all the positive things that can be done with Main Street. So my thought is, and I think the two representatives from Ward 1 either would be wonderful. I respect both Heather and Peggy very much. One thought I have, though, for consideration is, because that there is some perception that there are some negative perceptions that can be, I think, healed and resolved with good communication and broad communication among a diverse group of people. I would like for people to consider an ex officio member, such as Councilman Jordan, who is appointed to the Committee for Growth and Development, and that has a nice, that sort of dovetails together. And what I like about that is I think Councilman Jordan also heard concerns from people about Main Street. So I think he can help build a bridge. And so I'd like council to consider that idea, because building bridges is what we need right now. And to do that, we all have to learn how to listen to each other, and we all have to listen to trust. We have to learn to trust each other. And we can't do that until we give it a try. And as long as folks stand in their corners and hold on to their negative perceptions, nothing's going to get accomplished in that regard. So I have not, talked to anyone else about this except for Randy and Ed. But if Councilman Jordan is interested in that, if the council is interested in that, I think it's a worthy effort that could help build a bridge. And if that's not the bridge that gets built, then I'm sure we'll find some other opportunities. But that's an idea for consideration that I'd like to ask everyone to mull over.
Mayor?
Ms. Lindsay?
May I recognize Councilman Jordan first on this?
I appreciate that. I have been reaching out to Ed because growth and development is what Main Street Milton is all about. And I am highly involved in growth and development and networking with other people, and have made numerous attempts to build bridges with Ed and start knowing his people better and want to work with them and cooperate with them and build respectful relationships that will bring us closer together. And I would like to continue to communicate as I brought up on December the 11th and asked Ed to include me in his emails of when they did have their meetings. I've already shown that interest, and I would be happy to accept.
Councilman Snow.
I'm all about making communication for the city work better for our citizens and for growth. And I know Main Street, have been some people that have brought up issues, but I think Main Street has been very open and continue and always will be an open door policy at all times for anyone that has a concern. So just if someone thinks they're closed door, I just don't want that perception to be out there, because that's never been the case. Just so I understand you, are you saying Councilman Jordan instead of a Ward 1 representative? Is that what you're saying?
I'm suggesting that would be an opportunity to build a bridge with folks that have negative perceptions, so that folks can become more informed and hopefully work together in a more productive way for the benefit of all of Milton.
Heather, what's your opinion on
I was going
to I'm sorry.
I mean, being the Ward 1 representative, that's obviously a big concern of mine, is making sure that bridge is built, because since, I've been on the council, the Main Street has come back into the picture, and personally, they do have a very open door policy. They've communicated with us, and I think what they're doing for our community is awesome. As long as we can have somebody on the council that, is willing to help build that bridge, I'm all for it.
Right.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hathaway. I hope you understood that it was disrespect
no,
to you.
No, that's fine. I mean, and it is in my ward, and it is a big concern of mine. And as long as there's going to maintain the open door policy, then I'm okay with that.
And I appreciate that communication has been good. I agree with your remarks. I've had good communication too, but the reason why I was suggesting consideration of Councilman Jordan was no disrespect to you or Peggy. I'm glad you understand where I was coming from.
I didn't feel that way at all.
Councilwoman Johnson, I believe, has a remark.
Yes, I do. I think this is a great idea. I have a great respect for Main Street. They're doing a great job. And I think what you're saying, we do need to continue to build bridges of trust, working with each other and building relationship. And so far, I see Main Street have done a great job with trying to achieve that goal. But I just wanted to say those kinds of things, and that's a great idea, Madam Mayor.
Are there other comments before?
Just one quick comment.
Yes, sir,
Just to
Councilman
finish
Snow.
up, I'm definitely not against this. Just wanted to hear other people's opinion. With Peggy not being here, maybe go ahead and push this to executive like we are, and then hear her opinion also. Just Randy?
Would the council like to, well, Randy, did you have a comment about this further?
Well, I did. I think what you're trying to do is get a sense of the council, and the council, asking for the council to confirm what you would consider to be your appointment. And from my perspective, I think the council has got the luxury to do that at this point.
So since this isn't a time-sensitive item, why don't we push this to the executive for further discussion when Councilwoman Smith is here?
That's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to 1166. Wings Over Milton Public Art Contest, call for submission. Wings Over Milton is a public art contest modeled after the Global Angel Wings project in Los Angeles, California. Artist Colette Miller painted the streets of Los Angeles with angel wings to remind humanity that we are the angels of this earth. The paintings are human-sized murals, interactive public art, wings people interact, photograph, and share with friends. The potential artist will craft a mural in various places within the city with the property owner's consent, where people can take photos, selfies, or videos as a tourist attraction. This competition would be constructed to establish and develop aesthetically pleasing artwork for the community. The artwork could highlight the county's aviation history. Understated thank you to Natural Gas of Milton on the painting will be required. The contest will both grant the winner with $500 and cover the cost of the artwork not to exceed $1,000 on a reimbursement basis with valid receipts. The city will own all rights to the work produced and may reproduce the image in any way the city so chooses. Again, this funding source is the Natural Gas of Milton. It's $1,500, and the city can appoint an appropriate judge for the competition. Just a quick comment, when my children and I were traveling, my daughter found some wings on a building and took a picture. If she says it's a big thing, I know it is, because she's 16. She
They
knows
have
it
some
all.
like downtown Pensacola.
Yeah.
And they're
I do
awesome.
know.
Yeah, so I think this would be great.
I have a comment about this.
Yes, ma'am, Councilwoman Rice.
So I like the idea of interactive art and creating photo opportunities, but I do not support this particular project. I would like to see something that is more local, more grassroots, and indigenous to this area. This is a great start, and I really like how someone is thinking here, but let's work on this a little more and come back with something that has more depth, is more unique for Milton. This is no longer a unique project, and I think it is contentious.
Contentious? Okay.
May I ask?
Mr. Yes, ma'am, Councilwoman Holly.
I'm going to have to disagree with Councilman Rice.
Make sure you
Wings-
speak in the mic.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Wings Over Milton, to me, portrays our support for Whitingfield, and they are a big economic driver for the city. I have not seen this, and I'm sorry that I haven't been downtown Pensacola or anywhere to see these wings that everybody sees, but from what I read and what I reviewed on here, I think it's a very good idea. And I think it's a healthy promotion between the city of Milton and Whitingfield.
And as I understand it, this local artist can compete for this. Mr. Jorgensen, do you have more information on this to respond to Shannon Rice's concern?
Well, I've done a little research myself, and I've talked to some others, and it wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was a good idea.
Right.
I've
Still have
talked to
another
other
comment about
members
that?
of council about the potential project. I think the relationship between Wings and the city of Milton makes it germane to this community. And I don't know that the wings need to be limited to the angel wing. They could be the wings of a trainer that has been the beginning seat for many of the aviators that fly for this nation's defense today. That's an example of the potential expansion of the program. I think they're attractive. I think it's a competition that gets artists involved. So I look at it as a benefit. One other thing I'd like to add is we had, in your materials, you'll find the last 2 pages. We also have the ability to obtain one of the cubes that have been used for art in Pensacola and other places where other artists are invited to participate in a competition to paint various aspects of what are called the cubes. Main Street has been able to obtain access to one that could be placed in a prominent part of the community, and I also support that effort. So I think both concepts are valid. This was first called to my attention by Councilman Snow. I thought it was a good idea at the time. Having researched it, looked at other aspects of it, I still do.
Councilwoman Rice, could you further elaborate on what your
Yes.
concerns are?
Yes, I can. If you look at the words of this project, and the words are important, it says that the angel wings are to remind humanity that we are angels of the earth. I do not believe that is true. I think that you can talk to many people in the community. Some will say it is, some will say it is not. This is not about airplane wings, this is about angel wings. I think if we separate ourselves from this project and focus, if you want to focus on butterfly wings, bee wings, aircraft wings, that's fine. I do not agree with this particular project.
We'll remove the language that indicates we're angels of the earth.
I would like to remove our association with the Global Angel Wings Project and artist Colette Miller. I think it is a good start, as I stated earlier. I think it's creative. I think photo opportunities is something we need. I would like for us to focus on something that's more indigenous to our area, more depth for us.
I think I understand now that you're concerned with the association with Colette Miller and the Global Angel Wings Project, but you're not necessarily objecting to the idea of the art.
I am not objecting to the idea of the art at all. I am objecting that this project's purpose is to remind humanity that we are angels of the earth. I do not agree with that. I would say that a lot of citizens do not agree with that. I don't think that this is an area that we need to get involved with.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and, you know, I read what the description was for this item, but if you look at the City of Milton's contest, they do reference angel wings on display at public locations.
I agree. They are in other places in the United States.
If I may just comment further, Councilwoman Rice, I hear you. Milton is seeking submissions of angel-type wings. There are a couple of places where the word angel is used, but I am unaware of how Colette Miller is controversial, so I'll have to look into that a little bit further. Councilman Snow, do you have a further comment on this?
If I understand and if I understand you right, Mayor, the submission for like the contest itself has nothing to do with
Colette Miller.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that might be a concept. I came up with the concept after seeing it in California several months ago, and unfortunately, a few people have painted them in Pensacola since I've been trying to get this done. But,
well, we can't always
so
be
we're not
first.
First again.
We
and
can't be
there's
first,
another
but
one
that's
they keep-
okay.
So I'm gonna start screaming next time I come up with another project. I understand where Councilwoman Rice is coming from with that. I'm good for knocking all of that information off as far as wings over Milton is the concept to me, not based on this lady out there. So I'm for it. My question is I had an original idea to put, from what your daughter's correct, by the way, people stand in line for those angel wings. I saw them standing for 2 hours where my wife was in California. So what I was trying to bring to the community is a cool factor that doesn't cost $1 million. And, but I was also looking at it right in the general. I know we could put it on different business owners would want it, but I didn't want to start that. You didn't do mine, and you know,
right.
Blah blah blah. I was just, and this is just for thought. I've told Randy right where our information thing across from your office, right there, just where people can see people gathering, taking the picture. I know somebody had a concern about not blocking Imogene, but to the right is a few trees right there. We could set it in front of that, reposition and have it there where people can gather there. It's a large sidewalk area, and have that.
Are you talking about the cubes?
No, basically
trying to
a
figure-
framed in. The one actually my wife was actually some old tin. It was up on the, actually attached to the wall. So it's just a framing, and we could put a framing there. And then whoever won the contest, however we figure out we're going to vote for that, then produce it there, and people could walk by right there. I know some other people have had some interest of putting it. I think we own the little piece of property between the Imogene and the Boomerang Pizza. I don't know if that's an option, but I was just out in the forefront is my thought, having people there. Downtown's coming to life, and just bringing it more and more.
I think this could be revised for next
Yeah,
week.
I was just going to say, we'll revisit the language that's found here. The emphasis I'd place on this is this competition would be constructed to establish and develop aesthetically pleasing artwork for the community. The artwork could highlight the county's aviation history. An understated thank you to Natural Gas of Milton on the painting would be required in recognition of the contribution by the city of Milton. We'll revisit the language, bring it back to executive committee if that's the council's desire. I mean, I have no affiliation with the Global Angel Wings project.
I did not know who presented this. I didn't know where it came from. I didn't want to know.
Yeah, at any rate, we'll, I think that's what we're after, is a competition to create a visually enhancing piece of art in various places throughout the community. This was one example how that could be achieved. We'll rework the language and bring it back to executive if that's council's desire.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Randy, and I'm all about certain murals in different places, and if we want to do more than one set of wings, but you know, this first set, I think nothing against private business owners, but I'd, if we could, maybe put it in that area, or another solution where visitors driving through our town see it, want to stop. It causes people to want to be, just one more reason to be downtown. So that's kind of my reason or my thought process of in that information area sidewalk that we have right in the middle of Willing Street there. So definitely open for other ideas. But that's my concept. Put it there. We don't have to deal with business owners or anyone else, and then we can grow off of that if we choose to.
Mayor, if I could, why don't we map a couple of potential locations and look at some other ideas that could be applied to both public and private property, and that'll be part of what we provide to the executive committee.
That sounds good. I mean, as I read that competition document, the location didn't have to be determined yet. So I think we can still mull that over, and Councilman Snow, your thoughts can be considered as by all, I hope. And Councilwoman Rice, hopefully those thoughts resolve your concerns about the way the project will be worded.
And are we still pursuing Angel Wings?
Well, I think that's what maybe you didn't catch, but there's been a lot of discussion on this.
Said other wings as well. But are we still circling back to where this is going to be Angel?
This is going to be Wings over Milton. There's going to be no reference to Angel. That was part of the language revisions I identified.
And if an artist submits an item as part of the competition that indicates Angel Wings, then I assume the judge will look at that, or is that going to be disqualified?
There's
You're not
no
allowed
disqualifying.
To do that?
It's
Okay.
wings. Those are wings.
Yeah, exactly.
That is correct. I also agree with that. This is a very creative idea, I think. And it would stimulate thought, and I believe it would be stimulating in the right direction. And as Randy said, if it's something wrong with the language there, reminding humanity that we are angels of the earth, we can, get around that. But I think the project is very valuable.
Right, and I think artists will have many ways of imagining wings, and I just wouldn't want to censor how an artist would want to look at it. But I hear your concern about establishing religion is what I think you're saying, that the government shouldn't be part of that. And you're worried about
I
angel
think
wings
that
being associated.
that's going to be very
with the village.
contentious in our area.
I'm very interested in your sharing that, and thank you for making me aware of that concern. I just wanted to make sure that you heard that Randy's going to revise that application process, that wording within it. The cover wording of the item, that's just what staff puts together to help us get up to date.
Right.
What's actually going to go to the artist or to the public is the document that's attached, Wings Over Milton, Public Art Contest, Call for Submissions. And there's just a few things that can be tweaked in that document to, I think, bring everyone together unanimously behind this.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be that hard to do.
But
Thank you, Randy.
It would be nice to, if, we could kind of speed this up a little bit, like the cubes, to kind of have them, or have at least one or something kind of around the time of the art festival downtown. That would,
So I understand there's ability for Main Street Milton to bring a cube or access to a cube, is that right?
That's correct, for a temporary period of time, but we could identify some potential locations. We'll bring you additional information, and you can consider it at the executive committee. If you feel that it's a pursuit you'd like us to undertake, we'll be happy to.
Okay, Councilwoman Holly?
I would just like to clarify the discussion, is that we're going to remove the angels from the earth or whatever, but we're going to allow, if an artist, as Mr. Jorgensen stated, wings over Milton, angel wings or aviation wings or butterfly wings or whatever type of wings an artist chooses
Form of
to,
wings.
will be fine.
They can submit
Yes.
whatever they wish, and then it'll be judged, and someone will be selected.
Someone may bring forward buffalo wings. I'm just
Buffalo wings. Well, that little levity is helpful, Randy, thank you.
I just want to make sure that the angel wings is not thrown out.
All right. Council, or
Right.
Mayor, just one
Yes,
quick,
sir.
Councilwoman Rice, I know you have some other ideas, and there's some other mural opportunities I've been talking with a few business owners about, so if you got some ideas, I think we need to share them in the future too, so maybe we can get those in the right hands of the right people, because I know some business owners are wanting to dress up some of their walls, so, and it could be, like you're saying, something that's really to Milton particular. Okay?
But is the contention that, Councilwoman Rice, you're concerned that this project would interfere with other ideas that folks have asked you to bring to us?
No, the contentious part is that I spoke with, as I was reading this, and then I spoke with different people about it. Some people are in support of that, and some people are very against that line that describes humans as angels.
Yeah.
So we have people that are part of, under the umbrella of the same religion, that have very different and very strong opinions about that language.
We'll remove any
So we're
reference
removing
to
it, and
angel.
that is what I was saying
Yeah.
was the contention.
I hear that. Thanks for sharing that. And again, y'all, when you're looking at these agendas and the paperwork that we're given, the description is something that staff writes to help us get up to date. And apparently that's the way Colette Miller looks at it, and she's an example, so that we could further research this idea. But that doesn't mean that what she does in Los Angeles is what we're going to do here in Milton. So it's all right. Can move forward then. Item number 1167, the Police Department building expansion. This is just a progress update, informational item. Are we going to hear from the chief or Randy?
We aren't. That's just an informational item.
Okay. So 1168, Public Safety Training Facility. Do we have an update from staff on this item?
Yeah, as it indicates, allocate necessary funds for the fire service to feed proceeds to complete phase one. I'm looking for this project to begin to develop to something more substantive than a concept next fiscal year.
Okay, so this is just an informational item as well.
That's correct.
1169 Riverwalk Lighting Project.
Again, just to remind the council of its timelines, and this project should begin to take shape now.
How was our new moonlight working out? Joe, like that? It didn't?
That was pretty straightforward.
It didn't work.
Okay.
Go back to the drawing board.
Madam Mayor, if I could, 1170, that
Yes, sir.
again is a project that is underway. 1171 are two piggybacks that we're hoping to undertake. One's in regard to signs through Vulcan Signs. Santa Rosa County awarded the bid. The other is custodial services to ABM. Again, that contract was entered into by the school board after a competitive bidding process, and we'd like to piggyback on that contract. City attorney at the last meeting indicated that our policies are in place, the practice is accepted, it's allowed statutorily, and it's a good way to go about doing these things. Staff would recommend approval.
May I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Snow, motion. Councilwoman Johnson, second. No further discussion, please vote. I meant to say if there's no, I don't think y'all heard me, but I don't think y'all had any discussion.
I think we'd all spoke up.
I can tell you will. All right, 1172, fund reserves balances.
You've
Would you
got
like to share anything on that?
You've got a substantive spreadsheet that's been prepared and provided to you. I'd like you to take some time to look at it between now and the executive committee. You also have the agenda analysis forms, which describes what we've done year to date. I want you to be cognizant of the funds that we're spending, both found in the capital improvements program and outside. And I intend on providing you with this report on a monthly basis.
Thank you, sir. 1173, Sailors and Flight Instructors of the Year Dinner. Just an informational item.
Well, council needs to inform Pam who would like to attend.
I was just about to ask that, so you want us to let you know, right? Okay, so email Pam if y'all want to go. It's Saturday, February 23rd at the auditorium at 6 p.m. Local Heritage Site, 1174.
Madam Mayor, we looked at the potential for two areas of the community to participate as a nationally recognized historic district. And neither area possess the characteristics required to participate in those federal programs. We looked at options to recognize those areas for their historical significance within the community and the surrounding area, and looked at practices employed in other units of government to do something similar. You have before you a description of that local heritage site process and how one can be established in the city of Milton. You also have in your possession a copy of the ordinance that would have to be passed in order to achieve that objective. It will be reviewed by legal counsel between now and the executive committee meeting. You also have a proposed application for an area to be designated as a local heritage site. And the following two agenda items, 1175 and 1176, would recognize Mary Street and its surround and the Kaiser Cemetery as local heritage sites. It would allow us to properly sign those areas and to recognize them for their historic contribution to this community. I think it's a way to achieve council's objective of recognizing their cultural, historical impact on Milton as a community, and do so in a way that does not become laborious or cumbersome for the property owners. It's part of a different process.
That's what I was going to ask you to elaborate on. How will the property owners on Mary Street be impacted?
Other than the recognition of that contribution, there's no new regulatory standard that would be applied to their properties.
And so the regulatory standards that would apply to them would not require them to expend money to update or do anything differently about what?
It would not.
Okay.
Is this kind of what I brought up about a year ago?
This is after significant research into trying to determine if we could get that area as a National Historic District. And
Yeah, because I had met with, I think I met with Vernon a few months back, and he was going to bring it up as far as just kind of designating those areas so that it didn't affect any property owners and just placing signs and things like that.
This is, this wasn't the result of Mr. Compton's work. This is the result of the city's work.
Yeah,
But he's on the Historic Preservation Board.
Okay.
And after considerable time and energy, this is determined to be the appropriate course of action from our perspective. It's what I would recommend to council, and you have the ordinance that would be required to be passed, and then the application. Application would have to be made, and we would then provide the recognition. The recognition can be done formally or informally, depending upon council's position, and I think it's positive.
So I hope everyone, oh, excuse me, Councilwoman Hathaway. So I hope everyone will study that material before the next meeting. And Mr. Bruton, would you like to share about this?
Yep. Al Bruton, 6033 Breckenridge Drive. Mary Street, I want business there, and I think Randy answered a lot of the questions. Would be aesthetically, would have to do anything, you know, different, or have, you know, because when you say historical, it's got a lot of issues attached to it.
Yeah.
It's just for the namesake and just go from there, or is it going to mean anything?
It is not going to require the property owners to do things differently than what they do today. Is it for the namesake? No, it's to me, it's more than that. It's recognition of the historical and cultural significance of the area. Does it mean technically anything really beyond that? No. But it allows the community and its leadership to say these are important elements of the city of Milton, and to sign them in recognition of that fact, and to write a history of how they've contributed to the community over time and what those characteristics are. And in the material you've been provided, you know, we already have that information. Part of what you've been provided describes what is found there and what makes it unique. It allows us to first talk about what makes it unique and what those characteristics are, and then secondly, make sure that that part of this community understands that they're important to us, and that is in part why.
Moving forward, that's good. Now, what if later on the state want to do something and bring something through there, and they say, well, this is a historical district, you can't because it's been designated?
This is local.
Local, okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bruton.
Mayor, just a quick question.
Councilman Snow.
Randy, would this make them eligible for certain grants possible?
No, sir.
Okay.
I was hoping that too.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think part of that national process would, if to be eligible for all those grants, then all the other things would come with it, like the requirements to make
exactly
changes and updates.
Yeah. So it sounds as if we've discussed this. Can I hear a motion to move 1174, 75, and 76 forward?
Motion.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hathaway, motion, second by Councilwoman Johnson. There's no further discussion. Please vote.
I wanted to, it's okay.
I'm sorry, what happened, Councilwoman Holly?
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to speak on it.
Oh,
but it's
please
okay.
do.
Okay,
I'm sorry I didn't see.
It's okay. I just wanted to confirm with Mr. Jorgensen that he said, will it or will it not go on to the National Register?
It will not.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, it isn't, the area isn't eligible. The area cannot be made eligible, let me put it that way.
So the whole point of this is just to say you've got historical significance on your property.
The whole point of this is for the community to recognize the cultural and historical importance of that part of the community to the development of the city of Milton.
Were there any other questions or comments about those items? Sorry, I did not mean to rush that.
No, that's fine, Madam Mayor. I'm going to vote no on this for right now because I've got to think about this. I think there's some things in here that need to be addressed and been addressed.
Absolutely. So it's one of the issues with the Committee of the Whole. We're getting materials for the first time sometimes, and we have to study it. And if you're still studying it, you should vote no so that you have a chance to continue to study it. And you can be resolved in those concerns by the next meeting, hopefully. The next item is parking lot lighting survey, 1177. Survey of the parking lot lighting conditions was conducted by members of the police department at the request of council. Thank you for doing that, Chief and your staff. And there's a report attached. Are there any comments about this report? Does council want to ask any questions?
A comment
Yes,
for
ma'am.
staff?
Councilwoman Rice?
Recently at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, there was a discussion about solar lighting at boat ramps, and I was wondering if staff could, or Randy could, if isn't aware of this, maybe meet with Shibler at the county and obtain additional info on that?
I can. We've been investing in and using solar lighting in various parts of this community. We have an inventory of poles that will be used for that purpose, along with have purchased and tested a number of different types of solar lights.
You've got it covered then, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I do happen to have a meeting that's unrelated to that subject with the county manager tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions about this report from council?
So,
Councilwoman Holly?
is staff going to, are we going to look at some degree of acknowledging the worst lighting with the other owners other than the city of Milton?
Yeah, the private property owners will call the deficiencies to their attention. Where the city has a responsibility, we'll correct the deficiencies. We'll bring forward those action items necessary to do so for council's further consideration.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Next item is 1178, FDOT Transportation Alternatives. Set aside funding for Milton Multimodal Connector Phase 1. Mr. Jorgensen, do you want to share with us on this item?
This is the first phase of a project that council has reviewed in the past. This would require a $21,370 match provided by the city of Milton to complete the first phase of this multimodal connector that would extend from Stewart and Munson ultimately all the way to Gilbass Park. The segment that we're looking for in this application is in red on this map. And it would lend itself well to the continued pursuit of all of the aspects into Carpenter's Park. And then we'll move down Broad, hopefully to downtown over time. 8 foot wide, multimodal, good project, DOT funds. We'll be competitive in the process. We'll leverage 200 for 20. I think it's good.
Quick, sorry.
Councilman Snow?
There's 5 phases. How much time are we looking at for all that, Randy?
As long as it takes.
Is there a way to fast track?
It really isn't. It's a competitive process, and as is always the case, our fair share, from my perspective, is as much as we can get.
Okay. Need that in a motion, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Motion.
Motion by
Okay.
Councilman Snow, second by Councilwoman Johnson. If there is no further discussion, please vote. Unanimously approved. Moving on to item 1179, off-premise directional sign regulations. The City Council recently received a request from individuals representing the Ferris Hill Baptist Church to modify the existing regulations for off-premise signs in a way that would allow for the church to provide information about cold weather shelters and other similar types of facilities, as well as allow electronic variable message signs for off-premise directional signs. Current city regulations expressly prohibit advertising of any type on off-premise signs and limit off-premise directional signs to a maximum of 6 square feet. Any variance requests currently made for this type of sign would be limited to requests on the size of the sign and not to the content, since advertising is prohibited. However, the city does currently allow signs to undergo routine maintenance, as long as they do not increase the size of the existing sign frame. This can include minor modifications to the sign, such as, in the case of the requester, a message to be added to the existing frame indicating the location of a cold weather shelter with an arrow. Recommendation to modify the current regulations should review the type of message that an off-premise sign can display. More specific language could be adopted that allows signs to direct traffic to cold weather shelters and similar facilities as determined by staff. An expansion of the regulations to allow for EVM signs should also provide for update maximum sign sizes for off-premise directional signs. As I understand this, I guess, Mr. Jorgensen, you and the city attorney might have both reviewed this, and this corresponds to your study of it and your recommendations, both for Ferris Hill to solve their problem immediately, as well as future, looking ahead to potential other people wanting to do something like this.
I have, along with Mr. Milstead, who's your zoning administrator.
Great.
What you have in your possession is in keeping with my comments at the last conversation when this was brought up. Our ability to vary those standards to provide for the request is limited. Further, the precedence of providing for one without providing for others is of concern. Now, I understand that Ferris Hill would like to call attention to the fact that they have a cold weather shelter, and I want to help them do that. The cold weather shelter is something that's important to this community that they provide, and I think that if we can achieve their objective of calling attention to this location, we should. It may require that we modify the language found in the law that deals with signage to achieve that objective. In the meantime, they could use the existing sign frame they have. They could undertake maintenance-related activities that would allow them to provide an arrow and identify what the arrow is for, and that's under the existing law. Now, if council would like us to look at the existing law and find a way to include language that says a electronic message sign, not necessarily variable, that would identify the purpose and the location of a facility like a shelter be provided for, we'll amend the language and bring you back that change. We're looking for council's position.
What I'm wanting clarification too, for the sake of council, what Ferris Hill wants to do would require a change in our law.
It would.
So have y'all looked at what the change in the law to accommodate? Let's just say the council wanted to change the law because they value Ferris Hill's request. How would that impact the city? Has that been studied yet? Have y'all thought about the consequences?
I have, and I know of a way to achieve that objective without it establishing a precedence that I believe would be harmful to the community over time.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you.
We can do that if that's
Mayor?
your desire.
Yes, sir, Councilman Jordan.
Couldn't we address this as being a public service announcement rather than an advertisement?
Well, if I could, it's not an advertisement. What the code provides for, it's not. There's simply, it's a directional sign. There's a shelter over here. That's what the sign's saying.
But if we addressed it as a public service announcement.
Still, you can't have an off-premise variable message sign under the law. So I don't care what you call it, that's what it is. We can find a way to do what they've requested. It'll take some time. In the meantime, they could use the existing sign frame and do what's described in the staff analysis. It would achieve that objective temporarily while we amended the code to provide for a electronic message sign that would show two things: purpose and location, direction, shelter, arrow. That's it, but electronic. And it would only be, those signs would only be allowed for shelters.
Okay, so that specific change to the law can be drafted and y'all
brought
can
to
submit that
council if
ordinance?
that's your desire.
Is that what the council would like to do, or do y'all want to discuss ideas?
So moved.
Okay.
Can we listen to
Councilwoman Hathaway, yes.
Okay.
Is there something new to tell us? Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Unruh, 6848 Shaven Street. I guess you want my resident. That's the church address.
Yes, sir, we know. It's okay.
Anyway.
Thanks for being back with us.
And I appreciate just where we're at so far on this. One of the requests is that it goes really beyond directional. Most of the folks that are using the shelter refer to that sign currently, shelter is open, shelter is closed. And to go down just simply having, you know, a directional arrow, then that eliminates our ability to to tell when it's open or closed.
If you'd like us to include a provision that deals with open and closed, that I can do. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Anything that, I mean, opened and closed as it relates to a shelter makes sense to me.
Sure.
And we can find a way to make that work. We would only be allowing these types of signs for shelters. And you'd be limited to that type of information that is simply germane to the operation of the shelter.
Okay.
Does that cover your concerns? I know you had a plan.
That is different than the way our existing sign is currently used. One side typically has, you know, what the title of the message on Sunday is, and then the other side has you know, I guess in the best case scenario, if that is, you know, I mean, because that is the biggest use of that is, you know, we're open or we're closed, or the Great Close Giveaway that we do a couple times a year, those types of events.
See that now you're straying away from location, purpose, direction. So shelter, open, closed, over here. We can do that. We go beyond that, we're starting to get into advertising activities that are not necessarily in relation to the shelter itself. I could have another religious institution indicate we may not operate a shelter, but we too give away food, or we have clothing available. We want a variable message sign. That's when we begin to cross the line of we're setting a precedence, opening ourselves up. We could have multiple religious institutions come forward and make similar requests and end up with a number of off-premise variable message electronic signs on our corridor that I'd like to avoid. So if the language was limited to the operation of the shelter and the shelter only, that we could do.
Excuse me, this sign then is not on the premises of your church?
No.
Okay.
It's been there for 100 years, but.
Right.
But.
Okay.
And we have
it can continue to be there.
Right.
And they can make maintenance improvements to it without our consent. That the code provides. But to change it to an electronic sign, that's a whole different, under the law, bailiwick, for lack of better terms.
And
how many off-premise signs are there in the city?
Tim?
I drove around just kind of, you know, just driving around, and I didn't.
There's 2 per church that's out. Both.
And off-premise signs are generally considered billboards.
I would like to see, I'm sorry, may I speak?
Yes.
I would like to see, council, visit this with Mr. Jorgensen's input, to make this happen. I mean, just because, okay, it's already an off-premise sign. Okay? And those are allowed for church. They can have 2 for church in the city limits of Milton. The only difference is that they're wanting to put a community service type electronic message on that sign. So the only thing they're doing is lining up a sign that is not lit up now, but will still have basically the same information as it has now, but without lights. So I can't understand why we cannot figure out a way to do this to allow the church to have this. I mean, the message is there. They just want to make it.
I think what I indicated is we can figure out how to do this, but the sign is going to be limited to the activity, location, and whether or not the establishment is open to open or closed. As soon as you allow them to, or anyone else for that matter, to establish a variable message sign where the message is just that, I can put whatever there I program. You take the risk that you will find yourself advertising a bazaar or a luncheon or 4 services on a given Sunday. And that's when you're now advertising. You're not providing information. Directional signs are provided for religious institutions, but not necessarily off-premise advertising sign. And when you go beyond, it's a shelter, it's this way to get to the shelter, you have crossed that line into, we're going from a directional sign to an advertising sign. And that's the sticky part of it.
So it's to my understanding, if they want to have vacation Bible school this summer, they would not be allowed to put that on their sign?
That's correct.
Totally against that. We need to figure out something else.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, Councilman.
Randy, can a regular business going down Stewart Street turn to a digital sign or not?
On a commercial corridor, on premise, yes.
Okay. Is it, throwing ideas out there, is it possible to, we're very limited on these types of signs out there. Can we change it and grandfather the ones that are already existing and no further new ones? If someone chose to change that, since we're at such a limited spot?
I don't know that I would, certainly the one that is there is grandfathered.
Correct, but just to update it to digital.
I can't grandfather something that doesn't exist.
I understand what you're saying. What's there now doesn't necessarily fit within the regulation because it allows for different messages to be put up now.
They use different messages they have historically. It has been grandfathered
Right,
for that purpose.
but because it's there, and as long as it stays in the existing signage footprint, as far as within the frame, then it's still grandfathered in. But putting a new variable message sign, then it becomes subject to what the law currently reads.
Current code.
Okay. I want to make sure I was understanding.
And
which is, to me, just as, I guess that's, I understand the kind of the letter of the law and maybe even the intent of the law, but, you know, that's a 1970s, maybe even earlier vintage sign. You might have to do a little shopping to find a vintage sign to go back, to upgrade.
But I don't think we've indicated that you need to put in a 1970s vintage sign. You have to stay within the sign area that exists currently. Now, you can't put in an electronic variable message sign because you're changing the nature of the sign itself. And so you can use the sign face or the sign face area and make improvements to that now.
Right.
But when you get to an electronic variable message sign, you've changed the game. The other thing that I'd add to that, and the other reason I say that, and the other reason I want to emphasize that, is we have more than 1 or 2 churches in the city of Milton. We have more than 1 or 2 dozen churches in the city of Milton. Each church, once you would do this for one, would then have the ability to do the same. That's the precedence you establish and the risk that you take. To limit the message to the location, activity, and whether it's opened or not to a shelter limits that potential, to my knowledge, to one religious institution.
Right.
One. And that is in part what I'm after here, folks, and I believe you should be.
I think I understand what you're saying. And beyond what you've said, if the churches are allowed to have off-premise advertising, then isn't any private property, any private business going to want the same thing? We'll have just a huge amount of requests for off-premise signs.
And why would, again, when you talk about separation,
We can't give a special rule to the church. So, but this is not a church requesting a special rule because it's a church. This is a shelter requesting special consideration because it's a public service, and that's how it's.
that's the key right there. And so you limit the information on the sign to those specifics.
But it seems like the solution that staff has been able to identify doesn't necessarily correspond to the plan that y'all had hoped to have for your sign, and that's the continuing question you have, I think.
I would agree with that. I mean, that's not, we were just open basically to do, you know, an upgrade and proceed as we have for the past however long. But obviously, I think I would want to talk back with our folks at the church to see where we go. What kind of timeline, because, I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go do some, you know, upgrades on the sign if this rule was.
Exactly.
It'll be, if council would to ask us to attempt to amend the code to provide for what we've described here, 90 days.
So you would need council to make that request to you and act on it by the next council meeting.
That's correct. They'd start by referring it to the planning board, then we'd bring it back to council.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Johnson moves, second by Councilman Powell, to request that this item be referred to the planning board for consideration so that the code can be modified as described. If there's no further discussion about that item, please vote on that particular motion.
Can I make a comment after?
Yeah,
Sure.
I need to make a comment.
Okay. So the motion to refer this to the planning board is passed. We have two comments, Councilman Powell and then Councilwoman Holly.
So I guess the reason I voted for this, and no, this may not be the solution you're looking for, but we need to get the ball rolling to make this a possible solution. If you come back with maybe a different thought process from the church, wanting to go a different route, we can still have those discussions, but unless we put this process in motion now, then you're talking about waiting even longer.
Sure.
I just wanted to put that out
Understood.
there.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Holly.
Would what Mr. Jorgensen just described be, do you think your church members would agree with that, or would they want something else? I meant, if he has to rewrite the language,
Sure.
or incorporate some verbiage in there to modify the regulations, that's going to take a lot of staff time.
Sure.
To do that. So, and plus go to the planning board and come back to the council. So, maybe it would be more beneficial for everybody, for you to speak with your church members and to get with Randy or Mr. Jorgensen
Right.
on the conversation, and then decide where to go from there, instead of expending all
Sure.
this time and energy on something that the church is going to say, well, we're not going to pay for that, just for that.
Right.
You know.
So to reiterate, I think, or to clarify, so that we really have two options. We go down the road and we replace what's there in like kind and continue as.
That's correct.
If we go to the digital signage, it would be limited to directional only, as it relates to the shelter.
Activity is shelter.
Of the shelter.
Yeah.
The direction of the shelter,
Right.
and whether the shelter is open or closed.
Right.
That's correct.
That option doesn't require any action by council.
That option is what requires us to amend the code.
Yeah.
The latter.
I'm sorry, the first action,
The
that you- your first
yeah,
option.
does not require
Right.
any action by council.
Yeah, so the first option requires no action. The second option does. That action has been recommended. If your church members are not interested in that solution,
Sure.
by the time of the executive committee, I bet you'll know that, and you could let Mr. Jorgensen know.
That would give you approximately 2 weeks.
Yeah, no problem.
And that way, if that's not of interest, then we can take that off the, well,
Table.
maybe not take it off the agenda. It's going to be on there because council moved it there, but
We can indicate that it's been withdrawn.
if that's acceptable to the council and to you. So
Great.
I'm sorry that it's so complicated.
No, it's fine. I understand. So
Yeah. Just the big picture has to be taken into account.
what is the date of the next council?
February 4th.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate what you do for the community. Okay, so according to what's in front of me, the next item is 1180 Impact Fee GIS Database Project. Am I still on track?
You are.
Okay,
and,
good.
I'm going to let Mr. Milstead take an opportunity to show you something that has taken us 2 years and hundreds of hours to
Yes,
put
sir.
together.
I've
So,
heard.
Let him demonstrate it to you. I hope he takes approximately 10 minutes or less. And I'm leaving the room.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Randy.
Did Tim tell you it took him all them hours? Or do you know that it took all?
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm going to pull up on your screen here to where you can view cursor. This is a web application that the city currently has a subscription for that allows us to distribute various GIS layers, geographic information system layers, to staff members of the city of Milton. This is not something that is distributed to the public because it does contain some sensitive information, utility lines, utility information that we do not need to openly release. But I will show you what it is that we have just quickly. You have in your packet a description about this particular project, about impact fees for water and sewer that are currently collected. Those fees are collected based upon equivalent residential units, which equals 250 gallons per day. That's how much we estimate for each resident to consume for water and sewer. Each business that comes into the city of Milton is assessed an impact fee based upon their projected usage in ERUs, and those records are obviously kept in the planning department and the public works department. Those records were essentially compiled and added to this GIS database, and I will go ahead and pull that up to where you can see everything that is currently, that has been applied to this database. Every green dot that you see there is a value that has been applied to an impact fee credit. So each residence will receive a flat value of 250 gallons per day for water and sewer. That is the value that is assigned to all residences. But commercial businesses are obviously assigned a different value. Where we had existing receipts, invoices, that sort of information, we just put all of that information into the database. But in many situations, either the business has been there long enough that we did not have any receipts, or maybe they never have had to pay any sort of impact fees. What we were able to do is go into our system and actually compile an average of their water and sewer consumption on a daily basis. That way we could apply that value, that highest value, to each commercial business where those receipts and invoices were not available. That was the way that it was calculated, and in doing so, we were able to come up with this database that will serve us going forward in the, if we have a business, an existing business that comes in and wishes to expand their business, just as an example, we can look and see how much they have been credited in impact fee payments in the past, and we can just assess the additional project itself to their cost. It would keep their costs down, certainly. But it will be a wonderful tool for us going forward to have. I will show you just as an example. 6501 Caroline Street, just as an example, which many of you will know whenever I zoom in, that this is the Tasty Freeze. And it's that point right there. You can see we have a ton of information about these structure points. That information comes from the county. And if you scroll down in this database, you will get to water GPD and sewer GPD, and that's the actual credit that we have assigned in gallons per day. So that's a little bit over 4 ERUs, 4.2 ERUs that was assessed to that particular business. And as I mentioned, that's data that we have compiled for every residence, every business on the city's water and sewer system. Questions you would have of me?
I think that this is awesome.
Lot of work. Thank you. Anyone have any other comments or questions?
I have one question.
Councilman Jordan.
If we stop subscribing to this program,
We do not. It is all on the city server. We would still have it available. It would just not be in an online format.
Thank you.
Yes, I did show them a little bit. Let me zoom to this layer and I'll, just as an example, let me turn off the impact fee credits.
Real quick, Cam, our wellheads aren't hidden under there anywhere, are they?
No. We do have that information, but
Okay,
like I said,
okay.
most of that information,
It's not-
this is not even available to the public anyway. This is
Okay.
just available to staff through the subscription that we currently have.
Well, I just want to make sure no hackers.
That's correct.
Wellheads are.
Yep.
Okay.
So let me turn off our impact fee credits and you'll be able to see, obviously, blue is water, red is gas, and green is sewer, and you can see sort of the extent of this database. And you can see all this is by no means all of the GIS layers that we have in our GIS database. This is just a few that pertain to utilities. But you can see some of the information that is available.
Is there anything further then on this item?
I
Thank you,
would like
Kim.
council to adopt this as a method of determining impact fees from this point forward. This is by far the most accurate data that we have ever had on this subject matter, and it allows us to, in a fair and equitable way, determine future impact fees. When you look at the amount of research that went into what you see here, it was considerable. So I think it's a fair methodology. It's fairer than anything the city has had in the past, and I think it was worth the time we spent to obtain it. And my other comment on just the GIS layers, it's a fairly sophisticated GIS program. We know the location of every valve, every junction, every line side, every characteristic of our utility system, both inside and outside the city of Milton. It's been years in the making, and it's a tremendous database. But on impact fees, if you would move this forward to executive to adopt this methodology, I would appreciate it.
So moved, as Mr. Jorgensen just stated.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilwoman Holly, second by Councilman Powell. If there is no further discussion, please vote. Unanimously approved. Next item is the Mount Pilgrim African Baptist Church renovations project update. This appears to just be an informational item, although there is a note that the timelines for the project are tight and the selected contractor will need to be able to continue work on this project. Do you have any worries?
I at this point don't, and 25% is no longer accurate. It's more
Nearly
complete
complete.
than that.
Yeah.
Yes. So believe it or not, I think we're going to get it done. And
Great
I'm
news.
happy. I hope the congregation's happy. I hope Councilwoman Johnson is happy.
Very happy.
It's been a long time in the making, but we're there.
Councilwoman Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to add about this update?
Very happy. Very, very happy.
Glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Great news. The next item is 1182, retractable basketball goals. And this has a cost of $24,000. Funding sources reserves from the county, and that the staff will prepare an RFP. Are there any comments or concerns about this project, or is this something y'all are ready to move forward? It was approved at the December council meeting.
We're just preparing the RFP. We'll bring that back for your consideration.
In the words of Mary Johnson, very happy.
All right, great. So moving on, item 1183, the Cedar Ridge subdivision new stop sign placement location. And there is a sheet attached. It indicates some yes votes, but I don't know that it's complete. I mean, I'm just curious. Did you hear back from the residents there that they don't want this stop sign?
What we heard back from the residents is that there may be a location that they would find to be more desirable than any that had been identified during previous discussions, found on the map that has been provided to council. We'd like to include that potential sign location and resurvey.
So there's going to be a new survey mailed to the residents? And you
That's-
don't need action from council on this, do you?
Well, I'd like to ask if council concurs that that would be an appropriate
I
course
have
of action.
comment on this.
Councilwoman Rice?
So I don't think that this should be led by the city. I think this should be citizen-led, and if there's a group or a citizen that wants this, I think the first step, they're getting a petition signed by a percentage of the people in the impacted subdivision. I don't think that we should be taking on the expense to continually mail residents surveys.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, Council.
Actually, this is citizen-driven. There have been numerous complaints by these citizens, and they have brought it forward. And these two stop signs in the position that they're shown here are, one of the stop signs is in the yard of the citizen that made the complaint problem, and the other one is right across the street. It is also in the yard of a family that has two children with autism. But it is citizen-driven. It's not being city-driven.
Excuse me?
I would like to ask Casey Powell, this is right up from your house. Have you any firsthand information on this?
Other than the two property owners there, I do not. There's not been any other complaints made to me by anybody else in my subdivision. I do live in this subdivision. You know, I'm definitely open to whatever the citizens want. I don't think my personal opinion matters too much. I don't live in the front of the subdivision. I live in the back. But, you know, I do know these two individuals specifically have made the complaints. I haven't really heard a lot from anyone else, honestly. But that doesn't mean it's not wanted or needed. It just means that these two are the ones affected the most by it.
So I have comment on that about the number. Numerous is how many, and that is why I think that they should bring a petition with signatures before we take on the expense.
And what expense are you,
the mail-out expense,
the actual
and the
mail-out?
admin time in deciphering the information. I think first step is citizen-led petition.
Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Councilman?
Shari, do you have any comment on this? You live in that neighborhood also. Have you heard anything? You walked around recently.
Shari Sebastio, Cedar Ridge Circle.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have talked to individuals. There have only been, again, the numerous two people that he's talking about where they want to put the sign now, because I see where they put the markers there on the ground. I'm sure Casey's seen it as well. That those are the individuals that were concerned about it, but I have not heard anyone else complaining or concerned about it. But again, if those persons that are concerned and they want to go through the subdivision and talk to everybody there and do a petition, then I'm sure that everybody that's there would be thankful that they're coming forward to try and help. So, I mean, I myself, I'm very busy. I don't have time to go through the neighborhood again and talk to individuals, but I have kept my ear to the grind, and I haven't heard anybody else complaining.
Is there autism signs there for the children?
No, there are not.
Or any marker
No,
signs?
I haven't seen anything. Now,
Okay.
they can put some signs up.
Could that be done, Randy, or that's the process?
We have a sign program to provide for those types of
So
signs.
if they request, is that how that
If a
works?
citizen came forward and made application, we'd take it up.
All
I
right,
think that
thank
would
you.
be good.
Randy, when we've had other neighborhoods where there's a traffic issue or a concern about the safety of a child, I mean, those are two separate issues. I don't know if this has arisen from specifically the safety of the children or in general, in addition to that, also traffic issues. Has there been any communication with city staff to shed light on that question?
The dialogue that I've conducted has been principally with leadership, and more specifically with Councilman Jordan, who has had conversations with the affected parties. And in addition, Lori Apriliano That's what I think I tried to say.
Yeah.
Who is here, has indicated that from her perspective, as a resident, this is a challenge. It's up to council. We'll do whatever we're directed to do in whatever fashion we're directed to do it.
I just know that we originally, when this came forward, that, we all were like, let's do a survey and let's see what the residents want. Well, the survey was done, and I think from the survey, there wasn't as many people that were interested in it as.
I think it was more than 60%.
And
that weren't interested.
That would be true, but the survey did not identify this potential sign location. And while we were conducting the survey, what did surface is that this potential sign location is what they would find to be desirable. So,
because it's in front of their house instead of down the road.
I don't get into the individual specifics. As I indicated, I didn't have conversations with the property owners. You would know more about that than I. I just know that this is what was brought to our attention, and that's why we are bringing it back to council.
I am not in favor of the city taking on the expense for this mailing.
Councilman Jordan, I believe you had a comment.
Yes, I agree with you. The location where they were talking about would have done no good for anybody. You're at the location
Either way,
where you're going west. You're coming around two curves going up there. You couldn't build any. Wanted to go in east, you had to slow down because you were into a curve. In that location, it would have not a problem in any way. But in the location they're asking now, it could.
But are they putting it there to slow the traffic down, or are they putting it there so that children are safe? I mean, why would we move it from?
I saw this problem firsthand during the summer. I was in and out of there several times.
Well, don't forget, I lived there, and I've been there 18 years.
And rather than everyone debate and disagree on what they've observed, it sounds like this requires further study with city staff. Could I ask that the interested property owner meet again with Mr. Jorgensen and maybe bring other interested property owners too? And I don't know that sending out a one-page survey, I don't know how long the survey is, with the utility bill, is that going to create any additional serious expense? But if that's the way to gather the information city staff needs to further examine this for council, I'm just curious, is that a great expense or burden, Mr. Jorgensen, to communicate with the community further about that in that way?
Yeah, it's about a $50 cost.
Yeah, to put it in context, we have a $9 million operating budget. It's
Did you want to get up and speak? Because you see,
Yeah,
okay,
come on.
yeah, I would like to hear your opinion.
Gloria Perliano, 5986 Ridgecrest Court.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having given me the opportunity. Some of the council members are new. Some of them have listened to me speak before, but this is not a new issue. This issue was brought before working with different departments in the city. My original concern was documented in paper in February of 2017. It's been 2 years.
Wow.
You know, I've met with some of the police department personnel, the planning department, just trying to figure this out. Now, if you'll notice, Ridgecrest Court is the main road that we're concerned about. And if you'll notice along there, there are no yellow markers. I met with Randy a second time after the survey out, only to find out that the original surveys were sent to the property owners, not the residents. They were supposed to do a second mailing. I'm not sure if that ever happened or not. I own another building right there, another one of those houses. I never got a survey. The people that live along as you're coming in on the right-hand side never got the survey. So how can somebody send a survey that says yes? And I understand the people in the back that probably don't want this, but they don't live and see it every day. It's safety and it's traffic.
I don't see any no votes. I mean, did anyone send back the survey saying
Nobody
no?
along Ridgecrest, there's probably 10 houses, got the survey. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
You know, I can't Pam can better speak to how the survey was conducted. I do know that we did determine a second mailing would be appropriate. And it was about that time that the new location was called to my attention, and what I did is said stop.
Okay.
I mean, if first we're identifying a sign location that won't achieve the objective of the intended purpose, then we're not going to send out the same survey that doesn't accomplish that end. So let's identify the new, more desirable location. Let's determine how we can put the survey in the hands of the appropriate audience. And let's bring this back to council for its consideration. Beyond just the mail-out survey, however, I will say we used a number of other means, including the city's website and it being available for someone to cast a ballot. We used social media and it being available as a way for someone to cast a ballot. So we allowed for multiple paths for people to express their opinion.
Well, if there's a way to achieve some sort of, I don't know, resolution of these various concerns, what occurs to me is I don't know that it would cost that much more for staff during regular staff hours to have some kind of meeting with the residents who are interested, who can come, so that people can actually understand what they're voting on and where they can, you know, they can get their questions answered from staff. And it wouldn't create an additional mailing cost because people would be coming here, and that would perhaps promote the citizen-driven effort that Councilwoman Rice is saying should happen. In other words, if a core group of people come, get their questions answered from city staff during regular operating hours here, then perhaps you can develop that sort of mass movement among your neighborhood to show
Absolutely, council what's needed. You know, be aware that most of the households there, they have husband and wife that both work. So, you know,
Mayor, if I could, I'll be happy to hold an evening meeting and make it available to all area residents to get the word out to those individuals, both those that reside and those that own. Use the same means we did in the past as it relates to social media and the city's website to inform the public of the meeting and look for public input. I think that's a good way to go about this, Mayor. I agree with you. We'll just hold an outreach meeting and we'll see what we get.
Sort of like what we did with Lockland Lake.
That's exactly right.
And that way, that outreach meeting would hopefully help your neighbors who do work participate if it's in the evening.
absolutely, and I will take my time personally, go door to door to make sure that people are aware of it.
I appreciate you being a leader in the community to help make sure this situation's studied
Well,
and the
like I
right
said,
result.
It's been 2 years. I don't know if we're ever going to come to closure on it because I don't think between the people that live in the back and the people that are impacted on the front are ever going to come to closure.
Well, before you draw that conclusion, let's keep talking.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we really understand the problem so that we can develop the right solution.
Absolutely. Thank you for the
Madam Mayor, may I ask Ms. Apriano a question?
Yes, ma'am, Councilwoman Holly.
Is it not true that your grandson was hit?
He was knocked off his bicycle, and there have been several times where, you know, people, I mean, it's not just children, it's people out there walking their dogs, they're jogging. Be reminded, as you come into the subdivision too, there's a big white sign that says 20 miles per hour.
But people aren't observing it?
No, they don't.
And so your grandson, was he hurt?
No, he wasn't. He was knocked off. He got his.
But he was knocked off because of a car?
Yes, and they didn't bother to stop.
Wow.
So, I mean, that happens.
That's not.
I personally was out there putting up a basketball court, and I was up on a ladder, and there was two, whether they were young people or whether they were older people, they were actually speeding going out of the subdivision, and if you yell at them to stop, they just go faster.
Right.
So it's just along that stretch of road. People just forget. It's habitual. You can't train somebody, you know, to kind of move down, to slow down, and that's the problem. That's that main stretch of road that people just, you know, they get going on it and they go fast. They have to stop at the end and they have to slow down to go to the corner, but it's just that people don't want to slow down.
Madam Mayor, may I say
Yes, ma'am.
something? I live in a neighborhood where I live actually at a three-way stop. And let me just tell you, the stop signs do not slow people down. People fly by my house every day, fly through the stop sign going 50, 60 miles an hour. And it's frustrating, and I personally just don't think that the stop sign is the solution. I mean, I've even considered the thought of putting speed bumps into these neighborhoods just because that's the only way you're going to slow people down, because they're forced to slow down. And that may be something that we can discuss.
That was, again, there was a lot of things that I kind of brought forward with the speed bump, or, they have other ones that aren't as invasive to your car. So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like I came and said we need stop signs.
Thank you.
I'm looking for some assistance.
A solution.
To try to help reduce speed.
Yeah.
Well, I think this outreach meeting would be a great opportunity for people to further discuss the problem, what we think the source of the problem is, and then come up with some creative solutions. Thank you, Councilwoman Hathaway, for that.
Yeah, I mean, because I live at, like I said, a three-way stop, but I'm at a main point where the people come off Hamilton Bridge into my neighborhood. So it's a very long stretch of road, and it gives people plenty of time to gain speed, and they don't even acknowledge the stop sign. I mean, 2 out of 10 cars will actually stop at the stop sign. And so I just don't think that stop signs are the solution.
If you don't have children, I mean, my daughter's all grown up, but I do have a grandchild. And if you don't have children, it's not as important to you. But when you do,
I agree.
It's important as a public safety issue to all of us. So I think we've got to continue to study this. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. And hopefully the outreach meeting will get scheduled soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going on to the next item, 1184, garbage exemption, I believe, is next.
If I could, Mayor, 1184 and 1185, this has been something that we brought to the council's attention, and there were some expressions made by members of council as it relates to the information that was being requested, how that information was being disseminated, and how it may be used. I've looked at the issue and determined from my perspective, this should require admin approval. It shouldn't require council approval. And then as it relates to individuals who have disabilities that do not allow them to place the can in the appropriate place, we'd require that person to come forward with a note from a physician that indicates that is in fact the case, and only that.
Isn't this something that department heads would handle subject to?
That's correct. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, this should be done, this shouldn't require council's approval. This should be done in-house, both in terms of those people who are physically or financially unable. And as it relates to the people who are on the existing list, I've actually had all of those people contacted, and in many cases, staff personally go to the property and make observations. So what I'm purporting is appropriate is the development of a policy that reflects the expressions I've just made, makes this an administrative task based on indication from a physician that someone's not physically able, and financial data that would reflect that they're not financially able. And we will take it from there. Anytime you'd like an update, we'd be happy to provide it.
Well stated. Can I hear a motion to that effect?
I have a comment on this. This is actually something that I had brought forward. Randy, I don't know if anybody else did. I am definitely in favor of this being delegated to staff, but I would definitely like a focus on transparency. And with that, I am talking about a standard policy, a standard application, and a process.
That's what I alluded to.
That's what I hear.
So, and it's going to be advertised, so this is made available to anyone that would qualify. So it's going to be a link on the website, I'm thinking, so that people know that it is available.
I think it's already been there.
Well, I would think that the policy would be developed and submitted to council for further consideration, and would have to go through legal review as well, I would think, because I don't know about these, doctor's notes, but we want to make sure that what we're requesting from someone, since it will be part of our, we want to make sure we're taking care of people's private information. So I understand your concern, Councilwoman Rice. I do believe what Mr. Jorgensen's saying will happen next is there will be some policies developed for council to review. Councilwoman Hathaway, do you have a comment?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
So we'll just continue these until you present us with policies to review, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so moving on from 1184 and 1185, 1186, downtown festival area. The recommendation is that council approve the moving of the lost funds and authorize the manager to approve the expenditure. Does anyone want to discuss this item? Or can I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Snow moved to accept the recommendation of staff. I believe it was Councilwoman Hathaway who seconded?
Yes.
There's no discussion on this item. Do we have any votes? Councilwoman Johnson, I think you have to confirm. Not sure. There we go. That's unanimously approved to move forward. 1187, 2019 project scheduled for Public Works construction crew. This is a really great detailed list of what y'all have ahead in the Public Works Department. And it looks like it's just an informational item, but also an item to let us know that you already have quite a few projects scheduled. One of the questions I have, and we don't have to take it up right now, but just an item to talk about at some point soon, is how does this impact your scheduling? That is, how can we further address the other infrastructure needs? I know from prior discussions with Mr. Jorgensen, we have a list of streets to still be improved. Those streets have come up in discussion with residents. They hope that they're on the list. If they're on the list, they want to know when they're scheduled. And so for council to answer those questions from constituents, maybe there's a time that staff can get together and update council again about the rest of the streets on the list, like what fiscal year they're going to be part of, and
We'd be happy to update that list and to provide you with the schedule of the streets that will be completed this fiscal year, and we'll do that in a format that is similar to what's found here. This was important to me because this is our people. We outsource the mill and resurface under contract. So we'll provide you that information for that street improvement work, and you can see the schedule for the city's construction crew.
You were emphasizing that our employees are doing all this work.
That's correct.
And I noticed too the disc golf course is listed September 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2019.
That's
so that's
correct.
great. And I know that came up earlier. And so this looks great. I appreciate the hard work of city staff.
We would have had some of this work already done, but you can see that we start out with the little statement that during a relatively short period of time, September 1st to December 30th, we received 36.25 inches of rain. Makes it tough to do some of this work.
It certainly does. And so thanks, Mr. Cook, for what you do in your department and your leadership with your folks. Appreciate y'all. Next item, 1188, DevTech training class for gas department. It appears that this is a request for council to approve out-of-town travel. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Hathaway, motion to approve. Councilman Powell seconded. If there are no comments on this, would you please vote? Councilwoman Johnson, waiting for your vote. It's not responding to your press. There you go. Unanimously approved. Moving on to 1161. The Highway 90 item, council requested this item be taken to committee of the whole. Please see attached previous correspondence.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The comprehensive plan has been amended. Resolutions have been passed. The resolutions have been provided to the appropriate parties. There was an indication of additional correspondence being desirable potentially by council. Council would find that to be desirable. Staff would appreciate the directive. I can't or won't mail a letter to a state department or agency without council direction.
So would council like to study this before, so that you have a chance to review it before you vote on it, or?
It will require council action. My other note there is just as a point of information. I fully suspect that before council has probably a chance to act at a council meeting as it relates to the directive, the PD&E results will be released, and your next correspondence should be in regard, in my opinion, to the results of that analysis once you determine a position.
I concur with that. It doesn't make sense to push forward in a certain direction if you're potentially going to change how you're going to communicate about that issue after you review a study. I mean, it's possible the study won't change what the council wants to do in this letter, but what if it does? It would make this council look as if it's not being consistent, which isn't helpful. So I would suggest that people study this. There's no need to, I mean, if you're going to decide that you want this, then that, it sounds to me, won't be able to be officially authorized until the next council meeting. Is that your?
Technically. I mean, I'd like to get a sense of the council. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for. How do y'all feel about it? And then further, I think you need to be cognizant of the fact that they're soon to release the PD&E. At this point, quite frankly, the decision on the preferred alternative, in my opinion, and I've been at this a little while, has been made. They're just now identifying the release date of that information. They probably made their determination on what their conclusion is going to be some time ago. The information that's been shared with me by the department is that we will have the results of that analysis in late January, early February. That's where we are right now.
I suggest we move further discussion about this to the executive committee.
Mayor?
Give people a chance to study it. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This council's taken action before, Randy, so why wouldn't that allow staff to send a direct letter? And I thought we've directed that to happen before.
In fact, you did, and that's what these correspondence represent, was the response to that previous directives.
Yeah, Councilwoman Rice?
So it looks like nothing has been sent since February of 2018?
That was the last time it was communicated. It was communicated in the form of a resolution, and a resolution is a final action to be taken by a council. You can't rise to anything higher than providing that information. You're resolved to take this given position.
As I understand it, after the council has made resolutions to this effect, staff has acted in response to those resolutions by sending these communications. Is that right?
That's correct, to all of the appropriate parties.
So that there's an opportunity for another resolution to be made at the next council meeting in February, correct?
And I would think a resolution would be appropriate following the release of the PD&E.
Just a question. Why does it have to be we could reiterate the same letter that we've sent and attach extra surveys that they took? I know they know the information, but why?
I appreciate your concern. I think Councilman Snow is, if I hear him right, is anxious that the city continue to pursue the line that was already determined by a prior council. Although it's possible that this new council would say the same thing as the prior council. I believe, City Attorney, I welcome your feedback on this. I don't believe that this council should assume that. I don't believe that staff is allowed to assume that. And so if staff is not authorized to assume that, then it requires this council to have a productive debate about it. If you want to make the motion, you certainly are permitted to do so, and we'll hear it. But if I may continue, if you make that motion and you vote on it as of February, I think is it February?
February 12th is the next
12th is the council meeting. As of February 12th, by that time, I believe the PD&E study will be available and we will have studied it. And so in other words, it seems to me we're right on time to figure out what this new council wants in connection with the PD&E study that's due. And that way this council can make an informed decision after a productive debate about what kind of communication you want. In other words, does it really serve you to repeat what was done in the past? Maybe, but if I understand correctly, with a new council, staff's not authorized to assume it should be the same communication. It should be approved.
Mayor?
Mr. City Attorney, would you mind commenting on that?
Mayor, in response to your request for input, I would just say that new councils are not bound by the resolutions of former councils. So if this council voted to reiterate the previous resolution, they can. If they call for a new vote to vote on a new resolution, that's their prerogative.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Snow?
Just as we brought it before the last council meeting, and I said we could went ahead and voted on that then. There's a lot of resolutions that have been passed by this council, previous councils. They're not undone unless somebody makes a motion to change that. That is the way the council sits, whether you just got elected or not. So unless somebody wants to make a motion to change that, how the council feels on this item or any other item, we go by what is previously voted. Am I correct, Mr. Andrade? Legally?
Well, no, council. Yeah, the resolution as passed in years prior still stands and is currently the resolution of the city council. It's just this council is not bound to not vote on it again.
And I'm not saying bound on it, but we can also direct our city staff to reiterate again.
You certainly can, and city staff will. However, it takes an action of the council, and
Mayor?
the council did not act in that fashion.
Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Jordan.
I'd like to make a motion that we move this to the next council meeting after we've got.
So the motion I'm hearing is to consider what the exact communication should be after review of the PD&E study and to discuss that at the next council meeting.
I'll second that one.
And Councilwoman Holly seconds that. If there's no further discussion on that,
There's
please vote.
discussion.
No? You have
I'd
something
like
new to
discuss-
add?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
I just asked considering time.
After I understand. This is a very important item for Milton. The PDE study is going to come out, and we're going to discuss whatever we think at that time of whatever their comments of what they think we need to do. So that's going to happen naturally anyway. What I'm saying is I've been talking for a while that we needed to send another letter reiterating our stance, and if we need to just remind them of what the survey stands, where the citizens stood against the four-laning of downtown Milton, and just reiterate that I understand they have the information, but it doesn't hurt to send them that again tomorrow. Is there a legal issue with that?
There isn't a legal issue. I don't want to speak for the attorney, but I can tell you that we'll do whatever council requests, but it takes council action. I can't respond to George has indicated that he'd like me to send a letter. The mayor has indicated she'd like me to send a letter.
That's just an example. I haven't actually indicated
No,
that.
you haven't. But my point in saying that is when the council indicates that they'd like me to send a letter, any 5 members, I'll be happy to send it.
Well, what I'm trying to say too is, and I appreciate that y'all have passionate beliefs about this, and this council is diverse, and y'all have important thoughts about this issue, and I don't think you should refrain from sharing them. But what I do think is, if the decision has already been made, if the report has already been done, or we're just waiting for them to make final comments, edits to send it out, pragmatically, logically, practically, what is actually going to be accomplished by another letter, no matter what it says? It can say anything. What will it accomplish? I mean, I'm asking Mr. Jorgensen, Mr. Andrade, any staff that can comment on that. Would any communication of any kind accomplish anything other than saying the same thing we've already said? Will it change anything?
Speaking from experience working in DOT, that's all up to conjecture. The Florida Department of Transportation is a political body, but they do have obviously subject matter experts. They have this resolution on file, I'm sure, and I'm sure they took it in consideration when they came up with their PD&E.
Right.
So.
At this point, another letter would simply repeat what's already been taken into consideration. And if we want to have impact and influence with this agency, I believe that we're best served by having a fully informed comment to them. even if you don't, if you have a majority of this council doesn't like what the PD&E study says, at least show you looked at it. At least show you thought about it before you communicate with them again. It shows that you care about being fully informed. It shows that you want to be fully informed and you still have a point to make and you still have an argument to make. In other words, you can restate your position now, but if it doesn't take into account information that's right around the corner, then I don't think you're going to have any impact, and you could be wasting your opportunity to make an impact. So why not wait until the appropriate time so that your impact can have the most effect? That's my strategic comment for council to consider based on my experience as a lawyer. I'm talking to you as a lawyer right now. I'm asking you to think about what strategically can you do to make sure your communication has the most impact. And I'm suggesting to you, as a lawyer who's argued before appellate courts and trial judges, that you have the most impact when you hear the counter argument and you show the determining authority that you've considered the counter argument and you're fully informed on it, and you still can show why they're wrong and you're right. So at this point, you're just going to say, we're still right. But if you wait until the PD&E study comes out, then you can say, we're still right, and here's why, even in spite of your PD&E study. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm asking you about the timing of your communication and how you want to do it. I'm asking you to think about that. I know there's some people on the council who disagree with others, and a majority may change the resolution that was passed last year. We don't know this yet until you have that debate and you think about it. And how can you have an informed debate about that until you see the study? So I'm suggesting to y'all, as a lawyer, as your mayor, as a person who wants to unify this community, that you please pause and think about your actions and how to have the most impact and how to show that you've really considered all the relevant facts before. I hear some concerns that staff should have acted immediately to send the letter. I also hear that staff has a concern that it should wait for logistical or pragmatic reasons, as well as out of respect for the newly elected council members. And I think that's a legitimate concern. It's important to show some respect for newly elected people so that they can weigh in. And that's come up before for this council, maybe not this particular one. But when our former mayor, Mayor Meese, was our mayor and councilmen changed, there was quite a lot of debate. There were changes, and some of it was not pleasant to watch. As a staff person, being unable to help everybody come together, and when people don't feel respected in their viewpoints, that's not what we want here. We want everyone to feel respected. And so I'm asking, as part of that process, that someone like Councilman Snow recognize. I hear you wanting the prior resolution respected, but I'm asking you to consider that the newly elected members haven't had a chance to weigh in yet.
So do we take that attitude towards every resolution ever taken by any of this board? Or
No,
just
sir.
this one here?
Yeah, just
Sir,
this one.
what I'm,
Specific.
Councilman Powell, I mean,
Come on, that's...
okay, so
Here's my question here,
well,
Mayor.
before you ask your question,
Okay.
I'm going to respond to the two comments I just heard. It sounds to me now
Could
that...
we call the question on this?
No, sir, I'm not going to call the question. Not yet, if you don't mind, because it's just been indicated to me that people think I'm asking for special treatment on this. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for y'all to be practical and logical and understand that if you want to take action on this, you certainly can. But if you do so and the PD&E study comes out and you realize, I wish I had done that a little differently, then you've lost your chance. So it's not about asking for special treatment of a resolution. It's asking for y'all to study a problem and to be logical and practical about how you address a problem. Councilman Jordan has called the question. The motion was to move this to the city council meeting in February for further discussion. Please vote. It's been seconded.
Are we voting on the question or the original?
On the question, because I'd rather discuss a little bit more.
I'm just asking for clarification, please. Thank you.
So
Was it the
according to parliamentary procedures that were in place for the election, there is a vote on calling the question, and people can continue to discuss whether to call the question, which I think is very inefficient. But if that's what we're going to do until we change those rules, that's what we're going to do. Y'all want to discuss?
I wasn't arguing a rule. I was asking which motion we're voting on, Mayor.
Call the question.
That's it. Because I didn't hear a second for calling the question. That's why I was asking. There was a second on the original motion. So that was my question. I thought we were voting on the original motion, which was to move it forward.
According to the parliamentary procedures that were in place before the election, you have to have a second to call the question. Was there a second?
There was a second.
There was not a second.
There was no second. So does it fail for lack of a second, or is there a second?
I only say that because he called the question, then he said, I'm not calling the question, then he continued. But there was no one ever seconded it.
I'll second the motion.
Councilwoman Holly will second that motion to call the question. Is there any discussion on calling the question?
Yes, I'd like to keep discussing. I think it's very important that to go a little further with this.
Okay, so there is a concern that we should not call the question yet. If there's nothing else to say about that concern, please vote on whether the question should be called. Okay, the ayes have it. So the question is called. So that means now we're going to vote on whether to move this discussion to the city council meeting that's coming up in February, which would mean that we would not continue to discuss it tonight.
May I amend the motion?
What do you want to amend it to?
I would like to amend it to vote tonight.
Okay. Well, since the question was called, I think the time for amending the motion has passed. So we have to vote on this particular motion and see what happens with it.
Can you be clear where we're at, Mayor? I'm sorry.
So because the question was called to vote on whether to move the discussion, further discussion of Highway 90, the February meeting, the council meeting. What date is that again? February 12th. Because that question was called, now you're voting on whether to move that discussion to February 12th. That's the motion under consideration right now. Councilwoman Rice wanted to amend the motion because she wants to act tonight. So if you vote yes to this motion, then we will not discuss this again until, well, you can bring it up on executive if you want to.
It doesn't make it legal tonight. They still have to wait for council to take official action.
Correct.
That's correct. So,
Move it.
I mean, that's why I suggested
Exactly.
many minutes ago now, that it just doesn't make much practical sense to have a lot of angst about what happens tonight. But I also understand that several council people are saying that because there's a resolution already on the books, why not just direct staff to do this letter? There's no need to wait to discuss about whether there should be another resolution, which could only be passed on February 12th. So I see some council members saying that it doesn't make sense to them to wait to discuss this on February 12th. So I believe that's why Councilwoman Rice wants to amend the motion, because she wants council to act to direct staff to send the letter without waiting for the PD&E study. Do I have that right? Thank you. So I think I've stated the concerns adequately, but Councilman Powell and Councilman Snow, if y'all have something to add about where we stand right now, I'm open to hearing it.
I believe we have to make a vote, and we'll
We're not
decide
allowed
whether
to
we're
talk.
allowed to vote or talk or not. That's what I'm doing.
But am I right that y'all have a concern that we should not push this off to be discussed later, that you want to discuss it now?
My concern is this is the committee of the whole where we are supposed to have in-depth discussion, so I don't
Right.
see the point of pushing it to anywhere else if there's going to be a discussion made. That's all. That's my only concern.
Okay. Councilman Snow, did you have anything else to add?
Well, my hope, I mean, where you're saying it, like sending another letter is going to hurt their feelings and they're not going to want to deal with us that's kind of how I take what you're saying. Sending another letter is just reiterating where we stand, and that's all it is. You don't know, or at least I don't think you know, or anybody else in this room knows if they've made the decision yet. Could they, just on, like Randy says, experience? Sure. We can all assume a lot of things, but there's no for sure. At least, I would hope somebody doesn't know for sure already.
I appreciate what you're saying.
And that was my comment.
Okay.
And if we're going to treat this resolution like this, we can start treating the rest of them like it too. So I think it's nitpicking one, because we do differ on opinions, and we're all allowed an opinion, and I respect everyone's opinion. but that doesn't mean that resolution was passed before, just like many others over years. And until somebody ever makes a motion to change a resolution, we stick by what's there. And if I'm incorrect legally, Mr. Attorney, let me know.
Thank you, Councilman Snow, and I appreciate what you shared, and I certainly wasn't saying we'd be hurting their feelings by sending a letter. I don't mean to be nitpicking. I tried to state my concerns, and I hope you consider what I was concerned about. So I think the council has heard Councilman Snow's, Councilman Powell's concerns, and Councilwoman Rice's concerns. So if there's anything further to think about, you can, but it's time to vote for those of y'all who haven't voted yet. Several have not locked in.
So we're voting to push it to City Council?
Correct.
And if we choose to, we can bring it up on the executive later.
So the ayes have it to move this to February 12th, and that does not preclude council from bringing up comments or concerns at the executive committee. By then, maybe the PD&E study will be available for you to review.
Mayor, if I could, I have one
Sure.
additional comment.
Yes, sir.
Council directed staff to amend the city's comprehensive plan. There is not much more of a laborious task that a planning department can undertake than amending the comprehensive plan. And once complete, that communication, along with the supporting packet of material that draws conclusions in support of the amendment to the comprehensive plan, is forwarded to every state department and agency, and they're to review it, provide comment, and provide it back to the city of Milton. My point in saying that is why I appreciate the resolution and or any subsequent letter we could craft. The most powerful message from my perspective you can send was the one that you sent when you amended the text of your comprehensive plan.
Thanks for sharing that, Mr. Jorgensen. Next item, 1162 Merchants Association. This is basically an informational item. I'll share with council my update on this. I've talked to different business folks, and they are working on organizing one. Mr. Downs is here. He might want to speak on this. I don't know if that's why you came tonight, Ricky, but okay. So basically, what I could share with y'all, we have John Bright listed here, Ace's Restaurant. That was a suggestion from Councilwoman Holly. If the other council members have suggestions, please go ahead and make that known.
I do, and I thought that that's what we were doing, was having our suggestions, tonight. That's
okay. Oh, great. Well, I don't know
because
if
I invited the person that I would like to appoint to the association
Excellent.
to the meeting. So
okay.
I thought that that's what we were doing. So okay.
Thanks, Councilwoman Hathaway. So who did your person you invited, she here or he here?
He's here. It's Oliver Sledge with the Man Cave.
Great. Do you want to come talk to us, or?
I think, yeah, I think he's just trying to get a feel and kind of see all the details of the association and what he can do to, put his input in.
Well, sir, can I recommend too that you contact, come on up and talk to us, but just so that you are aware of some of the business people who are organizing it. I want to make sure you get connected with everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
My name is
Welcome.
Oliver Sledge, 5176 Stewart Street, Man Cave Grooming Company, greatest barbershop in town.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
World
Glad you're
famous
here.
man.
Glad you're
oh,
here.
yeah. Entertainer.
That's right.
Glad I was invited to come. I'm just sitting in trying to figure my way through this thing. So it's all brand new to me. So thank you for inviting me.
I've visited your place, and it is fun to be there.
Yeah. It is fun.
So
Thank you.
I wanted to let you know, maybe you could meet Ricky too tonight. And he had talked about the Merchants Association. And so when the different business folks were talking to me about it during the campaign, I encouraged them to all get together. And so if you could give me your email, I could
Okay.
connect you to them by the email so that you could join the conversation.
Sure will. And I do know, Ricky, I spent a lot of money over there at
Yes, sir. I hear ya.
Babcock, so
Well,
thanks-
great.
Thanks
So,
a lot.
do you have my email? hlindsay@miltonfl.org.
No, but I'll make sure I get it before I leave.
I'll just hopefully, yes, just
Okay.
help me remember to make sure I get you on
I
that
will.
list.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Councilman Snow.
Is it okay to, I haven't been able to contact a couple people on this, so can some of us bring those suggested people later?
Yeah, just let Pam know if you would. Just get us
Yeah.
names. Get us names of people you'd like to see.
I will do
Okay,
that.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely, because the more people who are involved, the better. And I've encouraged the folks who are interested in forming it to get that conversation going, and I've told them that council will be sending them recommendations. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it, Heather.
Of course.
Okay, so if that update is concluded as far as y'all are concerned, we'll go to the next item. Charter Review Committee, and the recommendation is to provide names of potential participants. And also, just as a little update too, Buzz Eddy said he would be willing to share, like do a training session or an informational setting. An informational meeting with everybody. When I'd asked the Florida League of Cities to help with this, they recommended that we contact Mr. Eddy, and so I did. And I asked him to get in touch with you, and I think he already did. So anyway, so council, do y'all want to mention folks y'all want to appoint to this committee?
Mayor, I have someone I would like
Yes, sir.
to be on the committee. Lester Jones. Thank you. Good man. A professional, well-educated. He will understand these items. Make prudence on what should.
So Lester Jones, Councilman Jordan is recommending, and can you get his contact information to Miss Pam, to Pam Haddon, or can Pam get with you to find out?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
On one of our committees, you already have.
I thought his name was familiar.
Do you know which committee he's on, Ms. Johnson?
Well, I think, I'm not sure. I have a question. Did the Merchant Association involve merchants only? Should they be businessmen?
Well, actually, the reason why I brought it up to council to talk about is because so many businesses were telling me, hey, we don't live in the city limits, but y'all affect us, and we want to make sure our voices are heard.
Right.
So I said, great, why don't y'all form an association? So I'm trying to encourage council to work together with the businesses to help them form it. But I assume that they're going to form it themselves, that they'll create their own organization. But we want to make sure that folks who are interested get included in that. There are different ways they could set it up. Any organization can just set up how they want to with their bylaws.
Yeah,
and we talked about different ways that could be done.
Correct.
So, but also I was thinking too that some member of council would want to visit their board meeting. Crystal Aniston at United Bank volunteered to host the meeting at United Banks. But Councilwoman Johnson, did you have someone you wanted to get involved in the Merchants Association who's not a business person? Is that where your question's coming from?
No, it's coming from the name that was mentioned by a few minutes ago. Lester Jones is not that might not be true.
But he was, Councilman Jordan's recommending
That
him
is
for
correct.
charter review.
Charter review.
Charter review.
Oh, I'm
board.
sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry, we moved on because we didn't have a vote. You probably
Thank
didn't realize we
you,
moved
thank you,
on.
thank you.
Yeah, we didn't
Yes.
have to vote on the
No
last
problem,
item.
no problem.
I'm sorry, we weren't all on the same page.
I'm sorry.
So,
Mayor, quick question on.
Yes, sir.
Just
just
on
wanna
your
make
charter
sure.
review committee, is that just, and I think I remember you correctly, just to refresh my mind, we're just trying to make sure we're up to date with our charter, not necessarily that there's something that needs to be changed, we're just making sure we're up to date. Is that where we're going? Is that our vision here?
well, I was thinking that we ought to let the citizens lead if there's going to be a change in the charter based on my study from the Florida League of Cities and what I heard from the historian. And so I was suggesting that it would help council if the citizens studied it, if they had, Buzz Eddy or someone else update them on what's happening around the state. I think just like you're saying, are we up to date? Are we evolved as a city? And Councilman Powell was going to chair that and make sure that we're basically keeping an eye on that and whether a change needs to be made. So as far as appointing people to this, the goal would be, anyone who's interested in this, no one has to be a particular expert, because Mr. Eddie's going to help everybody get up to speed on what they should be, cognizant of, help them understand the history and everything.
Super.
So
I have
Yes,
someone to
ma'am.
recommend for that, but first a comment that I think that we should also consider property owners and business owners for that charter review. They are only making a recommendation to us. They're not making a decision. Is there a reason why we would not allow them to make that recommendation or be a part of that?
My original thought about the Charter Review Committee was it would be city residents, because the residents are the ones who vote and the charter applies to their city. And so a property owner, sure, if they're not a resident of this city, though, the charter, even though it affects them, it's not really their charter. It's the residents' charter. It belongs to the city's people. And so that's one reason why the Merchants Association is so important, is to make sure that these property owners who don't have a vote because they don't live here feel like they have a voice. And I'm hopeful that the Merchants Association will be a diverse group of all the folks that have come to y'all and said, hey, we wish our voices were heard more. And then they can all get together, have a conversation, and make sure council's being fully updated. Because it's harder when each of you are hearing different things from different people. Wouldn't it be great if we felt like we were getting information from the business owners that would help guide your policy, that you'd feel confident that they have really studied it too? That it's not just one or two people, but they've actually really studied it. And that's what I'm hopeful that they will do as a group. I think it'll also help unify Milton, because people who have different beliefs, different perspectives about Milton's future, how do we be a progressive Milton? What does that look like? When the business leaders get together and talk about that, they may all have different visions, but they can all agree that it's good for Milton and good for them to have a discussion about it. So I'm sorry, that's kind of a roundabout answer to your question.
I appreciate it. So discussions about the charter is not off limits to the Merchants Association. Sure, they could talk about that, and they could bring that forward.
You're
as the
absolutely
merchants.
correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things the Merchant Association could do would be have little groups like subcommittees within the organization, because you don't get much work done unless you have a small group. It's hard for a big body to get a lot done, but if you have a small group that'll focus on an issue, that small group can focus on it in the Merchant Association, go to the body, and then they can say, this is what we need to tell council. So I definitely agree with you there, Councilwoman Rice. I think that they would probably want to look at it.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a favor? Move item 1127 up, because I have an appointment I have to be at the community center.
Sure.
BMX track, just so we can go over that, and then I will ask for to be excused, if you don't mind.
Before we leave the Charter Review Committee, though, is there any other appointment that someone wants to suggest at this time, or do y'all want to keep thinking about it?
I do want a point of clarity, just so I understand. I'm at times easily confused. The Charter Review Committee is to determine whether the charter needs to be reviewed, correct?
Right.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. They're to examine whether there needs to be a process to review the charter, or is the charter current in light of the time? Those are the questions.
Right. That's the initial question, and that's what Buzz Eddie's going to help them be educated on.
Yep.
And so, again, if a charter change is going to happen, it should be citizen-led. So until the citizens get together and talk about it, then...
Yep. We're just trying to prompt
Yeah.
everybody for names right now.
Right.
If you
That's
all
true.
got names, get them to us.
And if you don't have names right now, that's okay, and we can leave this item and go to BMX track. Is that where we need to go now?
I have a name, Alan Pegg.
Alan
Pegg, P-E-G-G.
I've got his contact info.
So Alan Pegg and Lester Jones have been suggested
And this is for charter.
for the Charter Review Committee.
I'll send my name to Randy.
Okay.
Thank you.
You'll send yours too, Councilman Powell? Okay. So now we can move on to the BMX item.
This was an informational item. We've identified the proceeds that will be required to construct the track. The track's found in the Public Work Construction Crew schedule. Councilman Snow, questions? Questions you would have? Is there anything in regard to this item I can?
I think we're on track right?
Mhm.
Where we need to be. So,
Mhm.
just wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wanted to make sure there was nothing extra that I was
No,
missing.
there's nothing you're missing.
May I be excused, Mayor?
Of course, I was hoping we'd be done by 5:30, so.
I'm sorry, I got a
No,
community center
you should
basketball
go.
game.
You should definitely go. No worries. Thank you. Okay, so BMX item, we can move on then. Do you want to go back then to 831? I believe that's our next item if we were going back in order.
Ken, this is the Business Development and Project Report. It's a standard report. It's provided for council's informational purposes. Unless there are questions. Mayor, I could move to item 1004, Restore Act Quinn Street Marina Phase 1. Where the recommendation says continue to pursue project funding, it's a carryover from a previous report. I would like to see this application withdrawn and let's replan our position on the marina.
I remember that prior discussion. The concern was that the application should be withdrawn because after further study, you would need more funding than what was being requested.
Cost estimates for the project as described were $2.5 million.
Right. So 2.5 million is actually what, after further study, would be needed, and that's why the request for approximately 1 million needs to be withdrawn.
The request was for 1/2 of 1,009,000.
Okay. So, Councilman Powell, do you have any comments on that?
I just would agree with Randy that we need to withdraw it. Do we need to do that in a formal motion? or?
But before I'm going to withdraw it, I need council to give me direction.
I'd put that in the form of a motion that we withdraw the application.
I'll second it.
Councilman Powell made the motion, Councilman Jordan seconded to withdraw this application so that it could be revised, and if there aren't any comments on that, let's vote. Oh, thanks for doing that, Councilman Powell. So since Jeff has been excused, he did not vote. So that moves forward, and just as a note of clarification, Mr. Jorgensen, there will be an opportunity for us to hear about ways that that application can be revised or that project can be further studied.
Well, yeah, I have some alternatives I would propose to council that I believe are appropriate action steps to reinvigorate the marina at considerably less cost.
The next item is the Narcotics Task Force.
Madam Mayor, both the Resource Center and the Narcotics Task Force are recommended to remain in committee. The Narcotics Task Force is a work in progress for the police chief, and the Resource Center is just an evolving concept. I would ask that both be continued in committee.
Councilwoman Hathaway, will she get to be involved in that since she's public safety?
She'll be in consult with the police chief.
Great. Okay, and then the next item, Resource Center continue in committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions or concerns from council on that? The next item, business develop, oh, you already did the business development and project report. Last item is the disc golf.
And we've already
We've
spoke
already
to
spoken to that.
Madam Mayor. So if there isn't any further business,
I believe we're adjourned unless Councilman Powell.
that's right. There are all the council
We're not
items.
adjourned.
Wait,
Yeah.
there's an additional.
There was actually an additional
Yeah.
item.
Oh, I
as
take-
well, 1189.
There's that.
Yeah.
Flag on Stewart Street.
Oh, flag on Stewart Street. Yeah, this was, Joe, did we get you a copy of the email?
Find it, Heather.
Is that there?
I believe so, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
there's a copy of an email there. I drive by this flagpole that's near King Middle School each day. Pole's well over 100 feet in height. And you can see the description on the email. Yesterday, Joe and I were out looking at the public works projects that we need to undertake and some issues that we needed to address. And I said to him, let's pull in here. And I'm curious about this flagpole because it's more than 2 times the height of the pole in front of City Hall. And, you know, how did it get there? Why is it there? Who paid for it? Et cetera, et cetera. And there's a business there. Went in and talked to a woman who operates the business. She said she'd get a hold of the property owner. And I talked about if the city had an interest in putting a flag on this pole, would someone let us do it? She said, well, I'll get a hold of the owner and find out what he thinks. Well, it's kind of the gateway from the north on 87 into the city. It's 100-foot plus flagpole. It's well engineered. We obviously have his consent. You see his expressions. We could put a, 15 by 30 or 20 by 40 foot American flag on that pole and light it.
Do it.
And it would be a beautiful way of coming into the city of Milton. A military community with a flag coming from Whitingfield at the cost of the lights and the flag. I'm glad I stopped. I'm happy I got his response today. I believe
great.
it's a great idea.
I think,
I'll put that in form of motion.
yeah.
I think it's
Councilwoman
awesome.
Hathaway, motion. I hear a second. Councilwoman Johnson, please vote.
Have y'all in Pensacola, by Barnes and Nobles and Gander Mountain, that size flag is amazing.
Yeah, well, this pole is easily 2 times the height of ours. Easily. Look at it. Well, next
That's
time you
awesome.
go
Okay.
north, you can't help but see it. It's on the west side of Stewart. Hey, the price is right.
That's
So there's a
wonderful.
square-
Thank you, Randy, for doing that.
Right.
That's wonderful. And I would say this too, I know it's not an item on the agenda, but I guess everyone's up to speed on the parade on Monday and, okay, so the candy will be here tomorrow, folks who are going to be in the parade, and also there's Sunday, there's the program at Mount Pilgrim, right, Councilwoman Johnson?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that program's at 6 p.m.
That is correct.
So I hope everyone has a safe and meaningful Martin Luther King weekend and day of service on Monday.
I have 1 or 2 other comments. Just a point of information, and council was probably unaware of this. We've received a $250,000 grant for the splash pad.
Yay.
Yay!
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
From who?
Excellent.
FERDAP.
Who?
250, the state recreational program.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
Florida
Good work.
Recreational Assistance Program. $250,000, folks.
That's awesome.
Thanks to our hardworking staff.
Well, that and some people we engaged for that purpose, but your staff advised you to spend that $6,000. I got $250 back.
Would that be them or who? That
No,
Liberty?
no.
Who helped us with
I
that?
gave you that advice. Johnny assisted. If you recall, we held meetings. We met with council, met with the community, made sure that we had dotted the i's, crossed the t's, turned the information over to a consultant to help with the authorship.
Oh, great.
And leverage the proceeds.
That's excellent.
But it's $250,000, and that's a great deal from my perspective. My other thing is Corporal Smith, who you recall was involved in a officer-involved shooting not that long ago. The state's attorney's office informed us today that the shooting was justified. Further, that they intend to release the video. So if you see it, it'll be out there. I'm just making you aware. Okay?
Thank you for the update. Is there anything further?
I think I had some stuff. Remember?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
It's
Go ahead.
okay. I don't remember now. Okay.
Committee of the whole moving
Yes.
time?
So I've thought about it, and I was kind of hoping we could talk about maybe moving the committee of the whole meeting time to a later time, just because I feel like if we move it to 5:30 or 4:30 or whatever, that would allow more constituents to come. And also for the ones that do work during the day, sometimes it is hard just to get off work to get here. And I just wanted to kind of leave it up for discussion to see how everybody felt about that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I have a comment along those same lines. I remember when I first moved here to Milton 10 years ago, and well, obviously I was born here, but I worked elsewhere and came home. But I was invited to participate in certain committees for the city. And so I would go to a meeting. It would last about an hour. It would be focused on growth and development, for example, or education, for example. And someone from council would be there, and staff would be there, and members of the public would come, and people could talk. It was small enough usually to be in the conference room. And that was one way of getting things done, where everything was separated by committee. Like the Public Safety Committee would have its own meeting about the issues that come under that heading. And it was, then all that information was combined for discussion at the Executive Committee. But then sometime in the last 4 years, it was changed, and I can't remember exactly when. Before you were here,
Yeah,
so it might have been
it's already
5 years, or 3 years. But at any rate, it was changed so that every committee then became absorbed in the Committee of the Whole, also known as COW, which kind of makes sense, actually, when you think about how much work we try to accomplish. And it's quite daunting, really, to have every committee's topics addressed in one afternoon or evening. And moving it later will require us to stay here later. So I also would like to offer up for mulling over by council, what about going back to one committee at a time? And it could still be set maybe at 5 or 4:30, but it would probably only be about an hour. It would be focused on that committee's issues. I don't know how that would work for staff as far as logistics. I do remember that when each committee was separate, those meetings occurred during the work day for staff, and therefore during the work day of people who would like to attend. Because meetings are live streamed, I don't know if that makes it easier for people to get updated. But I think there are multiple concerns here to make sure we're taking into account. Not just making sure that folks have a chance to be a part of it, but also making sure that we and staff are able to work effectively.
Yeah.
And that we're not feeling rushed or feeling like we can't study an issue before we have to make a decision. And also making sure that we're not wearing out staff that have been here since 7:30 in the morning. Yes, sir. Councilman Jordan. Could you speak in the mic?
Randy and I had this same discussion just a week or so ago.
What's your suggestion, sir?
And it was very similar to what yours was, but I had to listen to staff side of it, of them having to spend, staff actually having to spend more time. And actually, what I want to say is this is going to get into a long discussion. If we get into this and get into it right, I'd like to move this on to executive and get this finished tonight.
Well, what I would like is to make sure that everyone knows what the concerns are that Councilwoman Hathaway has, so that we can actually consider
the
it.
only problem with moving it to executive is, like, I'm ready for it to kind of get into motion, so maybe by the next committee, the whole meeting, it's kind of, we have a different plan.
Yeah.
Because it is hard at 3 o'clock I know it's once a month, but it's hard. I mean, we have jobs. I mean, not all of us have the luxury of being retired. I mean, and I think it would allow more constituents to show up. You know, and I mean, I'm all for open discussion, but I really like to discuss it tonight. I mean, that's what the committee, the whole meeting is for.
Well, I hear you, and because it's already 6:30 and nearly the dinner hour, it's kind of hard to feel like we can discuss that in depth. My thought is, I agree with your concerns, and I think that you know, there are other concerns that are competing concerns that I also respect. So I wonder if everyone can identify what their concerns are, everyone can mull it over, because nothing has to be decided tonight to make sure that the next committee of the whole is on a different time.
Okay, that was my biggest concern, is I just want to make sure that it's going through the right motions.
You don't have to make a motion tonight to change the committee of the whole for that to be changed.
Okay.
We'll place it on the agenda for the executive committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as far as getting things done in this meeting today, don't feel the pressure of trying to get something accomplished right now.
I don't feel the pressure. I'm trying to do the right thing, you know, by bringing up new ideas at this type of meeting, because that's, you know, what these meetings are intended for.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. That's all.
I appreciate that.
May I add something, please?
Yes.
This is actually something that I considered as well. I kind of think that there's about 6 of us that 6 of 9 that have day jobs. So I think it would be convenient to a lot of us. I am in support of also moving that committee meeting, and I'd like that to be known.
I mean, and truthfully, I don't mind being here till, late at night, because that's part of whenever I started doing this that's my duty, is to represent everyone in the city of Milton. So if I have to be here in the wee hours of the night, that's what I signed up for, because I knew I worked a full-time job. That's why I kind of want to discuss moving the meeting time back.
Well, no one doubts that,
Thank
your commitment.
Yeah, thank you.
I just think that we also have to be mindful of other people's comfort and concern, health and that sort of thing. And we can also, if anyone else wants to say something about it now, you can. But I think we can continue to discuss this at executive. And if you decide you want to change things, there's still time to make that motion.
I'd like something.
Yes, ma'am, Councilwoman
I'd just
Holly.
like to address Councilman Heather down there. Retirement for some of us is not a luxury. We earn that. So I'm just letting
I
you
know,
that.
but that's what I'm saying. I don't have that luxury at this point in my life yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I didn't
We're
either
still
when I
working
worked for
for
the
it.
city.
yeah.
I was demanded
I mean,
to
I'm not
be wherever.
making a jab
Yeah.
at you. I'm just saying I don't have that luxury to have more free time. I mean, I have to work to make a living. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
all I was trying to say.
we all knew that when we ran for office.
And thank you.
Thank you.
You had other items you wanted to add to the agenda, I thought.
I think Casey wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just had one question. Because this is the way it's always been done in my experience, how would you break it up? Just maybe some information could be brought to that. How would it be broken up? Because it'd be one council member in here by themselves, or we're going to have to appoint new members on boards we currently can't fill our boards now. So that's my concern.
Oh, right. So I would just ask, maybe you could bring that to executive, how it would work.
Yeah, we could break it up. I do want to remind council that the reason we became the committee of the whole is it was broken up, and council people indicated that they didn't feel that they had enough information coming out of the subcommittees to make decisions. Yeah. And they wanted to be exposed to all of the conversation.
Right. I remember that.
That's how we got to where we're at today.
They were here all day.
That is,
and we would hold one committee meeting one week, and the next committee the next week, and the next committee the next week, and we can return to that. Well, I mean, we work for you, whatever you want. And we'll be here until you tell us it's time to go home. And I really don't have a preference when it starts. That's up to y'all.
The logistically, the way it was broken up week by week, I think helped the workflow from y'all's perspective. And now, considering technology, we all have access to hearing, whatever was said.
Yeah, but there is a legal notice process.
Yeah, logistically might be a lot of work.
Logistically, it is actually more work from an administrative standpoint to break it up.
right.
I'll do it any way you'd like me to, but administratively, it's more work to break it up.
Right. If I might, just add
Councilwoman
this comment, I've had it both ways. And actually, when we're in committee as a whole, we all get to know and review and discuss the information together at the same time.
Yeah.
When you had the smaller pocket, you didn't have an opportunity. So you missed a lot of information. So, but for the staff point of view, I mean, I hate to see them have to say 6, 7, or 8 o'clock at night after a long day's work. But actually, I think it's more beneficial if we can tell it a little bit further down that we have the one meeting and we discuss all the issues.
All right. Councilman Jordan, did you have another?
I can adjust.
Oh, I'm
These are
sorry.
things.
I thought you were finished. I think Councilman Jordan was trying to say something too.
There's arguments for both sides of this. The thing that stick out in my mind that was prior to going to committee of the whole, the meetings were a lot shorter. It was as if smaller groups got a lot done quicker, and when they brought it to the council. But there's I think we need to just go ahead and move this on up where we got time and keep running this.
We'll list it on the agenda for executive committee, and I'll give you some of the history and the options. And Councilman Jordan, I agree with you. It seems like things did get done in a shorter period of time. 5 meetings, 1 hour in length, they're 5 hours. This started at 3. It's 6:30. That's 3.5. Okay.
instead of 5.
Were there other items?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, and we can talk about this at the executive committee because it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. But, you know, I've been on the council since November of 2017. And, you know, I've been in a few of the parades, and I'm concerned about how we go down Stewart Street, we're in the center lane, and how close kids and people come up to our vehicles. And I would like to kind of further look into maybe putting barricades up to where they can't get so close to the vehicles, because I would hate for something to, happen. But that's what I wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
I have 2 items that you've indicated: Munson Highway access,
Yes.
when parades are being held, and barricades
Yes.
at parades. And my intent was to examine
Okay.
both questions and bring you information.
Thank you. That's what I needed.
Perfect. I was looking to see if Chief had
Oh.
some comments on that. That's what I was looking at.
I figured.
Yeah.
I'll get the chief's comments as part of the process.
Okay, all right. If y'all will get together and update us at the executive, is that
Yeah,
all
that'd
right?
be great.
And as far as Monday is concerned, at least it's in the daytime, so we'll be able to
Exactly.
see.
Yeah. I mean, because at the last Christmas parade, we had kids coming
dark.
right up to the trucks, and I was like, "This is a little too close for comfort,"
Yeah, it
and
was.
I don't like that.
I hear you. What other additional items?
That was it. It was just about just the
Council-
detour signs and the barricades.
On the barricade, I believe Councilman Jordan wanted to mention an upholstery shop next site and an issue for Councilwoman Rice's Stormwater Committee.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
Design Upholstery has been in business in Milton for approximately 23 years. The gentleman that owns that was in other furniture business long before that, and has been a contributing citizen to Milton for a long time. I think it would be great. He's fixing to retire. Unfortunately, he does not have anyone to take over that business. Any of you know someone that does that type of work or is really craft and interested in that type of, there's a business opportunity right there. The man has a backlog of work, but due to his age and his physical health right now, is going to retire most likely in April. He's trying to wind it down at this point. So I think it would be very appropriate if after 23 years of his being in business, if Weed City could honor him some way before he exits the business world.
We'll find a way to do that.
And I certainly would love to see somebody step into that opportunity. I hate to see a business close. Next site, I won't go into that one too much. There was a meeting with Next Site. Randy has the information. If anybody wants to know what happened at that meeting, it was a good meeting. Talk to Randy on that one. Of course, Shannon Rice. There's a Mr. L.T. Henley, 5539 Confino Street.
Econfina. That's where my grandparents live.
It's not Smith or Jones, I'll tell you that. He has a water issue. He's a gentleman that served on our civil service board for years. This came up back when Brian Watkins, our city manager, and was on the table. But when Brian left, sort of got dropped off the table. And if you could check into that for him, he would have.
I'll make contact.
Thank you. I can give you his address. I gave you his address, but I don't have a telephone
It's
number.
okay. I'll get
We
in touch
have
with him.
one. We'll get you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other items from council? I guess then we are adjourned.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
I don't think that's complete. I didn't know how else to get it to you.
I don't either. I think it works.
I don't know why I keep losing it. It keeps slipping away from me. A good thing you're not losing it. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? Got a ream right here, isn't it?
Nice. About 80. Give you a little over.
Hey, Tim.
Oh,
Yeah, I do.
They not here?
Yeah.
You want to just reach over and get
Yeah, I put them away. I try to help out a little bit.
every time, don't you?
I think one time I did.